Watch Dogs. You remember Watch Dogs? The first one? I feel like it doesn't get enough love. It's funny because when it first came out, everyone was hyped about the whole hacking thing. Yeah, it didn't fully live up to the insane expectations, but looking back, it was actually a pretty solid game. What really pulled me in was the whole idea of controlling the city with your phone. Like, you could hack traffic lights, cameras, basically turning the entire city of Chicago into your personal playground. There's just something so satisfying about sneaking into an enemy base and never even having to fire a shot. Just using cameras and distractions to mess with people. It made me feel like this tech-savvy mastermind. Aiden Pierce is a little brooding, and not the most charismatic character out there, but I kinda liked that about him. He felt like this guy driven by grief, and everything he did had this personal weight to it. I also loved how the city of Chicago itself felt alive. It's not just a backdrop, it reacts to what you're doing. If you cause too much chaos, people call the cops. And then you've got this whole cat-and-mouse chase through the streets, dodging police cars and helicopters. I had so many moments where I barely escaped by hacking a drawbridge or raising blockers just in time. The adrenaline rush from those moments was legit. I think it's one of those games that's way better than people remember. It had a fresh take on open-world action, with the whole hacking twist that really made it stand out. If you haven't played it in a while, I'd say give it another shot. It's got this cool, techie, modern, vigilante vibe. Alien Isolation. I don't think I've ever played a game that kept me on the edge of my seat like this one did. You know how some horror games throw constant jump scares at you? Not here. This one's all about that slow building tension. You're literally never safe. It captures that feeling of dread from the original Alien movie perfectly. And let me tell you, the atmosphere in this game is top tier. The space station is so incredibly detailed, like straight out of the 1970s vision of the future. It has that grimy, lived-in feel, which just adds to how isolated you feel. The lighting is phenomenal, too. I remember creeping through these dimly lit corridors with shadows dancing everywhere. The vibe is so good, you just feel like you're there. And that's half the reason this game works so well. It makes you feel like you're in constant danger. I think one of the coolest things is that the xenomorph isn't the only thing you have to worry about. There's other stuff happening on the station, and it really creates this sense that the world is alive. Well, maybe not alive, but dangerous. I won't spoil anything, but let's just say, some of the other encounters are almost as tense as dealing with the alien itself. Alien Isolation isn't for everyone. If you don't like slower-paced games or being super stressed the whole time, maybe it's not your thing. But if you're someone who loves a good atmospheric challenge, and you appreciate a game that doesn't treat you like a kid, you're in for a treat. There's something incredibly satisfying about surviving an encounter with the alien. Elden Ring. If you love a good challenge and want to lose yourself in a beautifully crafted world, this game is a must-play. The open-world design is just jaw-dropping. It's not your typical open world where you're just running from quest marker to quest marker. In Elden Ring, exploration feels so organic. You'll be wandering through this desolate field, and suddenly you'll stumble upon some hidden cave or a massive fortress in the distance, and you just have to go check it out. Every corner of the world feels alive with mystery, danger, and treasures waiting to be uncovered. The game doesn't hold your hand at all, which I love. There's no obvious path to follow. You just go wherever your curiosity takes you. It's refreshing to play a game where the world itself is the real draw, not just the quest or the story. You never know what you'll run into, and trust me, the surprises are both thrilling and terrifying. Combat, as you'd expect from a From Software game, is tough but fair. Every enemy can mess you up if you're not careful. But when you finally take down that huge boss after hours of struggling, the sense of accomplishment is so worth it. It's got that classic risk-reward system, where you're constantly weighing your decisions. Do you keep pushing forward with low health, risking all your runes, or do you play it safe and return to a site of grace? That tension makes every encounter feel meaningful. The bosses? Oh man, they're something else. Each one feels like a huge event. Some are these towering, monstrous creatures, while others are more human-sized. RYSE, Son of Rome. You know, when I first fired up RYSE, I wasn't entirely sure what to expect. I'd heard mixed things over the years, but it really surprised me in a lot of good ways. Right from the start, the visuals pulled me in. I mean, this game is stunning. The world of ancient Rome looks so alive, from the grand architecture to the battlefields dripping with atmosphere. It's one of those games where you can just stop and admire the scenery. But RYSE isn't just about looking pretty. The combat, while simple, is incredibly satisfying. Yeah, it's not the most complex system out there, but once you get into the rhythm of sword swings, dodges, and finishing moves, it feels epic. There's a real sense of power behind each blow, and the slow-motion finishers, pure cinematic brilliance. It made me feel like a gladiator, right in the thick of battle. The story, too, deserves some praise. Marius Titus, the game's protagonist, has a journey that's as much about personal revenge as it is about the fate of Rome itself. The way the narrative unfolds keeps you invested. And let's not forget the voice acting. It's top-notch, really bringing the characters and drama to life. One of the coolest things about RYSE is how it captures the brutal reality of Roman warfare. You can tell the developers paid attention to detail, especially in the way soldiers fought, and how battles were choreographed. There's something genuinely immersive about leading your troops through a formation, calling out orders, and fighting alongside them. Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart. This game is like a massive playground of imagination. I'll start by saying that if you're a fan of eye-popping visuals, crazy weapons, and charming characters, this is a must-play. Right from the start, you're thrown into this super vibrant animated world. And when I say vibrant, I mean vibrant. The visuals here are insane. It's honestly like playing through a Pixar movie. The combat is chef's kiss. You have this insane arsenal of weapons, and each one is wilder than the last. I mean, only Ratchet and Clank could come up with weapons like a gun that turns enemies into plants. That's right, you can go full botanist on some evil aliens. There's this fun balance where you have to keep switching weapons, and because they're all so unique, combat never feels repetitive. Plus, upgrading them is addicting. You're always excited to see what ridiculous upgrade you'll unlock next. The game somehow keeps you on your toes, thinking, okay, what can I do next to make this even crazier? And let's talk rifts for a second, because they're just so clever. You've got these dimensional portals that let you zip around the battlefield or enter totally new areas in seconds. It's like a whole new way of moving and exploring, and it makes the game feel like nothing else out there. Plus, there's this thrill in zipping through dimensions without a single loading screen. It's a mechanic that's so fresh, it almost feels like you're playing an action movie, where every second keeps you glued to the screen. Rift Apart is perfect for players of all ages. Outer Wilds. This game is all about exploring the unknown, and it really leans into that feeling of pure discovery. You're a new astronaut, part of this tiny space program from a small, cozy alien race, and you're launched out into space with nothing but your ship and a lot of questions. And I mean a lot of questions. What's so cool about Outer Wilds is that it doesn't handhold or push you in any specific direction. You have this whole solar system to explore, and every single planet is like its own character. Each place is unique, with strange environments, hidden stories, and mysteries that just pull you in. You land somewhere, start exploring, and immediately find yourself getting wrapped up in something unexpected. The sense of wonder in this game is unreal. I mean, you'll be cruising along and suddenly you're uncovering secrets that are far bigger than you'd expect. There's something magical about wandering into these ancient ruins or discovering strange technologies from a long-lost civilization. And as you piece things together, you start to understand that every single mystery is connected, which is honestly so satisfying. One of my favorite things is how much Outer Wilds makes you feel like a real explorer. There's no combat or big flashy objectives. It's all about curiosity. Every time you figure something out, it feels like a little victory, and the game respects that you're smart enough to connect the dots on your own. Another thing is the time loop. It's such a unique mechanic that gives the game this sense of urgency, but without being punishing. Resident Evil 4 Remake. You know how remakes can sometimes feel like just a polished-up version of the original? This one is so much more than that. Capcom managed to take one of the most beloved games in the series and elevate it in all the right ways. It's like they took everything that worked in 2005 and improved it without losing that magic. Honestly, if you're a fan of the original, you're going to be thrilled. First off, the graphics are stunning. You know how the original had that eerie, creepy vibe with its isolated village? Well, the remake takes that atmosphere to a whole new level. The foggy woods, the creepy lighting, it just feels so immersive. There were moments when I had to stop and just take in the environment. It's terrifying, but in a way that makes you want to explore every corner. Gameplay-wise, I was thrilled with how much smoother everything felt. Leon's movements are less stiff, and the gunplay, spot on. The combat has been reworked to feel more dynamic, especially when you're dodging and parrying enemies. Oh, and speaking of enemies, those Ganados are way more terrifying this time around. They're more aggressive, smarter, and honestly, I found myself sweating in some of those encounters, especially when you're dealing with hordes at once. I loved the tweaks they made to the characters too. Leon has more personality. He's still got those cheesy one-liners, but he feels more grounded. Ashley is no longer just the damsel in distress. She's actually helpful, and their dynamic adds to the story in a way that feels more natural. Batman Arkham Knight. If you're into Batman even a little bit, this one really delivers. It's the final entry in the Arkham series, so there's a lot riding on it. And let me tell you, it wraps things up in the most satisfying way. First off, the gameplay. You're not just playing as Batman, you're feeling like Batman. The fluid combat, the way you can string together attacks, counters, gadgets. It's also smooth. Honestly, once you get the hang of it, you feel like a superhero, effortlessly taking down waves of thugs. It's like the perfect balance of tactical and badass. And then there's Gotham City. I mean, this is the Gotham I've always imagined. The atmosphere is spot on. Rain pouring down, neon lights reflecting off the streets, all with that dark, brooding vibe. It's eerie, but alive, if that makes sense. The city feels like it's its own character. Plus, the freedom to glide through the skyline or hop in the Batmobile just makes you feel like you own the place. Speaking of the Batmobile, I know people have mixed feelings about it, but come on, it's the freaking Batmobile. The controls can be a bit clunky at first, but once you get used to it, it's pretty fun blasting through the streets or shifting into battle mode. It adds a new dimension to the game, especially with those tank battles, even though they can get repetitive after a while. The story is where Arkham Knight really shines for me. Without spoiling too much, it's got everything. A psychological thriller, action-packed moments, and that emotional depth you wouldn't expect from a superhero game. Death Stranding, one of the most divisive games out there. When this game dropped, it was like half the gaming community loved it, and the other half was just like, what is this? It's a Hideo Kojima game, so you know it was going to be unique. But Death Stranding took that to a whole new level. Instead of fast-paced action or combat-heavy gameplay, you're a delivery guy in a post-apocalyptic world. It's a game about walking, hiking, and, yes, carrying boxes. People were super confused by the whole concept, especially because the marketing was so mysterious. The trailers didn't really explain much. And when players realized they'd be spending a lot of time delivering packages across desolate landscapes, some were disappointed. It wasn't the action-packed game people expected from the creator of Metal Gear Solid. But here's where the game shines. Death Stranding isn't trying to be a traditional game. It's about the journey, the connections you make, and the feeling of isolation in a broken world. And if you get into that mindset, the game is really something special. It's strangely relaxing, even though it has some seriously intense moments. The way it handles the idea of connecting players, allowing you to help out others in the world by leaving equipment or building structures, was pretty innovative. It made the world feel shared, even though it's a single-player game. Sure, it's not for everyone. If you're looking for constant action, Death Stranding might not be your cup of tea, but if you're in the mood for something different, something that really takes its time to build atmosphere, it's a game that delivers a unique experience. Next we have Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. This game is like every Star Wars fan's dream come to life. Seriously, if you've ever imagined wielding a lightsaber, dodging blaster shots, or facing off against terrifying Sith enemies, Fallen Order is the game for you. It just pulls you in and makes you feel like a Jedi in training, and it's just so much fun. This game takes you all over the Star Wars galaxy, from lush forests to crumbling ancient ruins, and everything in between. Each planet has its own feel, its own mysteries, and its own set of enemies and challenges. There's this amazing sense of adventure as you move from planet to planet, uncovering secrets, exploring caves, and finding new paths. And the level design is a blast. It's got that classic Metroidvania vibe, where you keep discovering new abilities that let you access areas you couldn't reach before. You're constantly rewarded for exploring and backtracking, which just makes the whole journey so satisfying. Swinging a lightsaber in Fallen Order feels right. There's a weight to it, and when you deflect a blaster bolt back at a stormtrooper, pure joy. The combat strikes this perfect balance between fun and challenging. It's not button mashing. You actually have to time your attacks, parries, and dodges to succeed, which makes every encounter feel intense and meaningful. Plus, as you go along, you get to customize your lightsaber. You can pick different colors, hilts, and other parts to make it feel like your weapon, which is just such a cool touch. Fallen Order has an incredible story. Crash Bandicoot 4. This game is a wild ride that combines classic Crash nostalgia with fresh, modern twists that feel like a love letter to longtime fans and a great entry point for newcomers. It's a bit of a crazy platformer, full of vibrant, chaotic worlds, tricky jumps, and the kind of fun challenge that makes you feel like a gaming hero when you finally nail it. Now, if you've played the old-school Crash games, you know that platforming here isn't a walk in the park, and Crash 4 definitely stays true to that. It's challenging, sometimes rage-inducing, but in the best possible way. There's this huge sense of satisfaction when you master those jumps, dodge obstacles, and make it to the end of a level. It's like the game is constantly daring you to just try it one more time. And hey, if you're someone who loves going for 100% completion, this game has you covered with tons of collectibles, hidden gems, and alternate paths. One of the coolest things about Crash 4 is the introduction of the Quantum Mask. These are special masks you can collect that each give you a unique ability, like slowing down time or flipping gravity. They really shake things up and make you think about platforming in a new way. Each mask adds a layer of strategy and keeps the gameplay fresh. So even if you're 10 or 20 levels in, there's always something new to discover. The masks really give Crash, and Coco, if you prefer to play as her, a fun, super-powered feel without making the game any less challenging. Assassin's Creed Odyssey. If you're looking for an epic adventure with a massive open world, incredible history, and a touch of Greek mythology, Odyssey is basically a dream come true. One of the coolest things about Odyssey is that it really puts you in control. Right from the start, you get to choose between playing as Alexios or Cassandra, two mercenaries with their own distinct styles and personalities. Combat in Odyssey also feels really satisfying. It's more refined and fast-paced compared to earlier Assassin's Creed games, with a bit of a superhero flair. You've got all these cool abilities that you can unlock, like the famous Spartan kick, which never gets old, by the way. There's something so satisfying about running into a fight, taking on a bunch of soldiers, and just kicking someone off a cliff. And if you're a fan of the classic stealthy approach, you can still sneak around, picking off enemies quietly. The game really lets you play however you want, whether you're a full-on warrior or a shadow in the night. Oh, and the naval combat is back. Sailing across the open sea in your very own ship is a blast, especially with the beautiful Greek coastline all around you. You can recruit crew members, upgrade your ship, and even customize it with different weapons and abilities. There's something so epic about steering your ship into battle, firing arrows, and ramming enemy vessels while your crew belts out sea shanties. It's just pure adventurous fun. The game world is massive. We're talking endless mountains to climb. It Takes Two. It's easily one of the most creative co-op experiences I've ever played. From the very start, you realize that it's not your typical platformer. It's all about teamwork. Whether you're playing with a friend, partner, or even someone you just met, the whole experience becomes this shared journey that's honestly so much fun. The level design is incredible. Every single level is packed with unique mechanics that are specific to that environment. 1 minute, you're in a garden where one player's watering plants while the other's chopping through obstacles. The next, you're in a clock tower, messing with time itself. It's never repetitive because each new area throws something different at you. The gameplay just keeps evolving. One of my favorite sections was when one of us could fly on this paper airplane while the other navigated obstacles on the ground. It's all about trust and coordination. What I also really appreciate is how the game balances difficulty. It's not too hard, but it does require you to think and communicate. There were moments where my co-op partner and I would be stuck for a minute, but it always felt rewarding when we figured it out together. You're constantly learning how to rely on each other's strengths, which is such a fun way to approach co-op. Honestly, what really stands out to me about It Takes Two is just how much fun it is. I mean, you're not just playing a game, you're sharing this experience with someone else, and you're both equally important to making it through the story. Whether you're laughing at the absurd situations or getting a little competitive with the mini-games. Demon's Souls. The world of this game is jaw-dropping, especially in the remake for the PS5. You step into this dark, eerie kingdom of Boletaria, and right away, the atmosphere pulls you in. Each area has this unique vibe, from creepy, foggy swamps to towering castles and fiery caverns. One thing that really stands out in Demon's Souls is how it doesn't hold your hand at all. There's no big tutorial here. Just you, your sword, and the mystery of Boleteria. That might sound intimidating, but honestly, it's what makes this game so memorable. You're learning as you go, and every little discovery feels like a personal victory. And when you finally figure out a tricky pattern or beat a boss that felt impossible, that's one of the most satisfying feelings in gaming. And speaking of bosses, Demon's Souls has some of the best. Each one is unique, creepy, and requires you to stay on your toes and really study their moves. You'll probably get your butt kicked a few times or a dozen times, but that's okay. It's all part of the fun. Each boss fight feels like a grand event. There's this tension in the air, and you're just waiting to see what insane move they're going to throw at you next. But when you finally bring one down, the victory feels so sweet, like you've just accomplished something epic. The game's mechanics are simple, but feel just right. It's not about flashy combos or crazy powers. It's about timing, patience, and learning from every mistake. The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, a game that somehow managed to take everything magical about Breath of the Wild and just amp it up to 11. Right off the bat, I've got to say the world is absolutely breathtaking. They've kept that stunning, painterly art style that's somehow both cozy and epic at the same time. You get these incredible sweeping landscapes, misty forests, hidden caves, and yes, floating islands in the sky. The verticality is on another level, and it makes exploring feel fresh and new. Climbing up mountains and discovering secret paths high above Hyrule is so rewarding. You feel like an adventurer, just setting off with nothing but curiosity as your guide. One of the best parts of Tears of the Kingdom is how it encourages creativity. It's not just about following a set path or checking things off a list. You can go wherever, tackle objectives in whatever order you like, and use all sorts of fun mechanics to solve puzzles or defeat enemies. I found myself thinking outside the box constantly. The game rewards you for being inventive, and every time you pull off some crazy solution, it's like, whoa, I actually did that. The physics, the way you interact with objects, even how you use Link's new abilities. It all feels like Nintendo wanted you to experiment and have a blast doing it. And let's talk about those new abilities. Without spoiling anything, I'll just say that Link's got some seriously cool tricks up his sleeve. These aren't just fun gimmicks. They totally change how you approach the world. Remember the excitement when you first learned to climb anything in Breath of the Wild? Fallout 76. I know this game got quite a bit of heat when it first came out, but after all the updates and expansions, it's a totally different experience now. Trust me. Bethesda really put in the work here, and it shows. First off, if you're into Fallout for the whole post-apocalyptic vibe, Fallout 76 still nails that perfectly. You're out there exploring the ruins of West Virginia, which is way more beautiful than I expected in an end-of-the-world kind of way. The landscapes are huge and varied, with misty forests, eerie bogs, and even mountainous areas where you'll get a stunning view of the wasteland. Honestly, the setting is a character in itself. And yes, it's multiplayer, meaning you'll run into other players as you explore. But don't worry, it's not like some chaotic battle royale or anything. You can still choose to play mostly on your own, focus on your story quests, or even just wander around, soaking in the atmosphere. But having others around adds this cool element of unpredictability, like maybe you're all just hanging out around a campfire, or someone pops up to trade supplies. It makes the world feel more alive, which is pretty rare in the Fallout series. Speaking of camps, let's talk camp building, which might be one of my favorite parts of the game. You can set up your own little homestead anywhere in the wilderness, and then customize it however you want. I mean, some people have made full-on mansions out there, and I'm over here just trying to get my campfire going. It's like a mix of Fallout survival with Sims creativity. Nightingale. Without giving too much away, Nightingale is set in an alternate Victorian-inspired universe where portals connect you to countless magical realms. These aren't just ordinary portals either. Each one opens up a unique, handcrafted world full of surprises. Whether it's dense forests, eerie swamps, or towering mountains, every realm feels like a whole new adventure waiting to happen. At its heart, Nightingale is a survival game. But it's so much more than that. Sure, you'll be gathering resources, crafting tools, and building shelters, but it never feels repetitive or grindy. The game constantly rewards your curiosity. Wander off the beaten path, and you might stumble upon a hidden ruin, a bizarre creature, or a resource you didn't even know existed. You'll face all kinds of strange and otherworldly beings, from towering giants to mischievous fairies. Each encounter feels unique, and sometimes running is just as valid an option as fighting. There's this constant sense of tension and wonder as you explore, never quite knowing what's around the next corner. One of the coolest aspects of the game is the crafting system. It's deep, but not overwhelming, which is a hard balance to strike. You can craft everything from tools and weapons to elaborate structures. And let me tell you, building in this game is a treat. The structures you can create aren't just functional, they're gorgeous. Whether you're putting together a humble cabin or a sprawling Victorian estate, it always feels satisfying and personal. SIFU. What's crazy about SIFU is how brutal it can be. I mean, you're this martial artist out for revenge, and the combat system is so fluid, but also super challenging. It's not the kind of game where you can just mash buttons, but the real twist? The aging mechanic. Every time you die, your character ages, and it changes how you play. As you get older, you hit harder, but lose health. It's such a clever way to keep the tension high. You're constantly trying to balance staying alive while still taking risks. There's this internal struggle like, do I push through this fight now, or should I retreat and try again later? The more you age, the fewer chances you have to finish your mission, which makes every death feel meaningful. The level design is awesome too. You're moving through these beautifully crafted environments, from neon-lit nightclubs to serene temples. Each one feels like a love letter to classic kung fu movies. The game's art style is sleek and minimal, but the environments are so detailed, and the atmosphere is on point. You really feel like you're living out this martial arts epic. What I also loved is how SIFU doesn't hold your hand. The difficulty can be punishing, but in a way that makes you want to get better. It's all about learning from your mistakes and coming back stronger. Each time you die, you're learning the enemy's patterns, figuring out new strategies. It's got that Dark Souls vibe where every failure is a lesson. If you love a good challenge and want to experience some of the best hand-to-hand combat in gaming, SIFU is a must-play. Black Myth Wukong. You know, when I first heard about this game, I wasn't sure what to expect, but the moment I saw the gameplay, it completely blew me away. This game is such a breath of fresh air in the action RPG genre, blending Chinese mythology with some seriously stunning visuals. You can tell the developers at Game Science have poured their hearts into this project, and it really shows. The main thing that struck me was how alive the world feels. The environments are rich, almost dreamlike, with incredible attention to detail. Whether it's a dense forest or ancient ruins, everything feels like it has history, like it's part of this vast, mythical landscape. And don't even get me started on the creature designs. Some of these enemies look straight out of Legends, but with a fresh, modern twist that makes them both terrifying and beautiful. As Wukong, you have access to a lot of cool abilities. And it's not just about fighting. There's a real sense of strategy involved. You can transform into different creatures and use their powers to outsmart enemies, which adds such a dynamic element to combat. It's not just about mashing buttons, but thinking on your feet. Every battle feels intense, like you're actually facing off against these legendary foes. But it's not all about combat. The story itself seems to be really captivating, diving deep into the lore of Journey to the West. The way the narrative is woven into the gameplay, with cutscenes and dialogue, really draws you in. Helldivers 2. Now, this game is a follow-up to the original Helldivers, which had a strong cult following. It's all about cooperative, top-down, tactical shooting, but with a pretty unique twist. It's brutally difficult. However, Helldivers 2 has gotten some hate for being too punishing, or for having gameplay mechanics that can feel overwhelming, especially for new players. One of the biggest complaints is how unforgiving it can be. Friendly fire is always on, which means you can accidentally or not so accidentally kill your teammates during missions. And believe me, this happens a lot. It's a game that forces you to be super careful, and not everyone is down for that level of intensity. The steep learning curve and lack of hand-holding also rubbed some players the wrong way, especially those who were expecting something more casual. Another thing that got some pushback was the game's structure. Missions can feel repetitive after a while, and if you're playing solo, the game is an entirely different experience, and not always in a good way. It's built around cooperative play, so going in alone can make it feel more frustrating than fun. But here's the thing, If you're into tactical shooters and have a squad to play with, Helldivers 2 is an absolute blast. The chaos that comes from trying to coordinate with your teammates while dodging enemy fire and calling in reinforcements makes for some seriously intense moments. The variety of weapons, gear, and strategies you can use makes each mission feel dynamic, and the constant threat of messing up keeps the tension high. Max Payne 3. One of the things that hit me right away was how smooth the gameplay is. The gunplay is so satisfying. That bullet time mechanic is still here, and it's just as awesome as ever. Nothing beats diving through the air in slow motion, watching bullets fly by, while you take down a group of bad guys in a ridiculously cinematic way. I've got to say, Rockstar really nailed the action sequences. You feel like you're playing through an action movie, especially with how they blend the cutscenes into the gameplay seamlessly. It keeps you hooked the entire time. The game does a great job of blending the old and new. It's still got that noir vibe in the narrative and Max's inner monologues, but with a fresh twist. And while it's different from the first two games, it feels like a natural progression for Max as a character. He's still trying to run from his past, but no matter how far he goes or how many bullets he fires, he can't escape it. And honestly, he's pretty much at rock bottom when the game starts. You can really feel the weight of everything that's happened to him. I think one of the things that surprised me was how tough it can be. It's not an easy game. You really need to think about how you approach each situation. Especially when you're low on ammo or painkillers, it makes every decision count, and every time you survive a brutal firefight, you feel like you earned it. So yeah, if you love intense action, a deep emotional story, and a character who's as flawed as they come, Max Payne 3 is absolutely worth your time. It's not just a game, it's an experience. Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree. The moment you step into the new content, it feels different, like you've entered a darker, stranger, and somehow even more intimidating part of the world. If the lands between were a fever dream, Shadow of the Erdtree is a full-on nightmare, but like the kind you don't want to wake up from because it's just too cool. Combat is as tight and brutal as ever. Whether you're a die-hard melee player, a magic enthusiast, or a mix of both, there are new weapons, spells, and builds to experiment with. I found myself tweaking my character constantly, trying out new strategies for every encounter. It's that classic From Software loop of getting crushed, learning, adjusting, and finally triumphing that makes the whole experience so addictive. And the bosses? Let's just say they're not here to play. They're here to humble you, to make you question every decision you've ever made as a gamer. But at the same time, they're incredible. Each one feels like its own mini-story, with designs and movesets that are as much a spectacle as they are a challenge. There's nothing quite like the adrenaline rush of finally figuring out that perfect dodge timing or landing the killing blow after a 15-minute duel. It's frustrating in the best way possible. But it's not just about the bosses. The enemies scattered throughout this expansion are no joke either. They're relentless, weird, and occasionally terrifying. One moment I was admiring the scenery, the next I was getting ambushed by some unholy abomination I couldn't even describe if I tried. It's classic Elden Ring chaos, and I love it. Devil May Cry 5. This game is just pure action-packed insanity. From the second you start, it's all high-energy, over-the-top combat, with Dante, Nero, and V just going off in their own badass ways. The combat is smooth as hell, and juggling demons in the air while pulling off combos? So satisfying. I mean, it makes you feel like you're some rockstar demon hunter every second you're playing. And can we talk about the characters for a second? Dante is, of course, the legend, and his attitude is just as cocky and hilarious as ever. But I gotta say, Nero's new arm mechanic is awesome. You can pull off so many different moves with his devil breakers, and it adds a whole new layer to the combat. I love how every arm has its own unique feel, whether you're blasting enemies or zipping around the battlefield. Then there's V. At first, I wasn't sure what to think of him, but his combat style is so unique. Controlling demons to do the fighting while you hang back? It's weird at first, but when you get the hang of it, it's pretty damn cool. He's like this mysterious, edgy dude, but in a fun way. The boss fights, though? Incredible. Every boss has this epic scale to it, and the game is great at making each fight feel intense without being frustrating. And the way the music kicks in when you're doing well? That's gotta be one of my favorite parts. The dynamic soundtrack literally gets better the more stylish you get, so it's like the game is rewarding you for being awesome. Honestly, DMC5 has some of the tightest, most fluid combat I've ever played in an action game. Avatar: Frontiers of Pandora. Now, I know a lot of us have waited years to see more of Pandora since the original Avatar movie. Whether you loved it for its visuals, the unique world, or just getting lost in this strange, immersive place. Well, here's the perfect excuse to dive back in and actually be in Pandora, not just watching it on a screen. The cool thing is, you're not just wandering around as a tourist. This is your home, and as you're exploring, you get this real sense of belonging. The way they've crafted the interactions with the world and other Na'vi characters just pulls you into the story. It's personal and really touches on that classic theme of connecting to nature, but on a whole new level. Combat-wise, it's balanced in a way that makes you feel powerful, yet still in tune with the environment. The Na'vi weaponry isn't just about brute force. It's more graceful, blending seamlessly with nature. It's not like you're there to destroy, but rather defend and protect, which gives a nice sense of purpose to every fight. And honestly, if you're into exploration, you're going to have a blast. Pandora's open-world setup lets you go off the main path, uncovering hidden spots that tell little stories of their own. It's the kind of game where you don't mind getting lost, because there's always something breathtaking to discover. So yeah, if you're looking for a game that's both visually stunning and has depth, give this one a shot. It's the kind of experience that'll stick with you long after you've turned off the console. Ghost of Tsushima. From the moment you start playing, it just feels like you're stepping into this beautifully crafted world. The first thing that really grabbed me was the landscape. The island of Tsushima is stunning, with these rolling hills, forests, and temples scattered all around. And the way the wind guides you instead of using a mini-map, that was such a cool touch. It makes you feel like you're part of the world, not just playing a game. The combat is another thing that I couldn't stop thinking about. It's so fluid and satisfying. At first, I was a bit nervous because samurai combat can be tricky, but the way it's designed here feels so intuitive. You switch between stances depending on who you're fighting, and it just flows so well. Every sword fight feels like it has weight. There were times when I would stop and challenge a group of enemies to a standoff, just because it felt so epic. You literally feel like a samurai. Speaking of feeling like a samurai, the story really pulls you in. It's all about Jin Sakai and his struggle between upholding the samurai code and doing what needs to be done to save his people. It gets you thinking, you know? Like, what would you do in his shoes? Would you stick to the rules or adapt to survive? The game really leans into that inner conflict, and I found myself getting attached to Jin and the other characters, especially his uncle. The emotional moments hit hard, and let's not forget the duels. Oh man, the duels. Some of the most intense moments in the game for sure. You face off against these really skilled enemies. Uncharted 4. This is one of those games that grabs you from the very first moment. If you've played any of the previous Uncharted games, you know what to expect. Action, adventure, treasure hunts, and a lot of intense moments. But Uncharted 4 just hits differently. It feels like a perfect blend of everything we loved about the series, but with a more mature, reflective tone. Nathan Drake is back, and this time, he's facing his greatest challenge yet. What's really cool is that the game dives deeper into his personal life, showing a side of Nathan we don't usually see. He's older, more settled, and you can tell he's trying to move on from his treasure hunting days. But of course, things don't stay quiet for long. The game does a great job of building up that tension between wanting to leave the past behind and being pulled back in. It's something that feels relatable, even if we're not all globe-trotting adventurers. The visuals in this game are absolutely stunning. Whether you're scaling cliffs in Scotland or exploring ancient ruins in Madagascar, everything looks so incredibly detailed. Sometimes, I would just stop for a moment to take in the scenery, which is something I don't usually do in action games. The environments feel alive, and they draw you into the story in a way that makes it feel like you're watching a movie, but also in control of the action. Speaking of the action, Uncharted 4 nails the gameplay. The combat, the platforming, and even the puzzle solving all feel smooth and satisfying. Wolfenstein 2: The New Colossus. Now, this is a game that doesn't hold back. From the moment you start, it's full throttle, no apologies. The story picks up right after the first one, and let me tell you, they dive straight into the madness. You've got BJ Blazkowicz, still the ultimate Nazi killing machine, but now even more battle-worn and broken, both physically and mentally. And yet, he's still got that fire. He's out for blood, but there's this deeper emotional side to him in this game that really surprised me. The gunplay is pure chaos in the best way. The weapons are so satisfying, and when you dual-wield two massive guns, it's like you're a one-man army mowing down everything in your path. The combat is fast, brutal, and it just feels good. Every shot has impact. And the enemies don't just drop. They explode into chunks when you hit them right. It's gloriously over the top, and I loved every second of it. Oh, and let's talk about the villains. Frau Engel, she's terrifying. She's not just some generic evil figure. She's genuinely unsettling, with this twisted obsession and cruelty that makes her a perfect antagonist. You really want to take her down, and that's what drives you forward. The way the game builds tension between you and her is brilliant, and every time she shows up, you know things are about to get wild. The characters are fantastic. Whether it's old friends from the Resistance or new allies you meet along the way, everyone's got their own personality, and it makes you care about them. Some scenes had me laughing, others had me really thinking. Mass Effect Legendary Edition. If you haven't played the Mass Effect series yet, you're in for a serious treat. And if you have, well, this remastered edition is the perfect excuse to dive back into one of the most iconic sci-fi RPGs out there. Right from the start, the game just grabs you. You're Commander Shepard, and your choices shape the entire galaxy. The stakes feel huge, but what's cool is that you're never just watching the story happen. You're actively making choices that change everything. And I mean everything from little side stories to major plot twists. It's one of those games where you actually feel the weight of your decisions. And that's rare. And the galaxy? It's incredible. You're exploring different planets, seeing all these unique alien cultures, and uncovering a rich sci-fi world with every mission. It's like living in your own sci-fi epic, from the action-packed battles to the quiet moments of exploration. The Legendary Edition really brings this world to life too, with upgraded visuals that make each planet and environment feel fresh, vibrant, and epic in scale. The combat is a blast too. Whether you're going full biotic powers or charging in guns blazing, there's a style that fits however you want to play. And with all the upgrades and tweaks in this edition, it feels smoother than ever, especially in the first game, which has been brought up to speed with the later ones. Plus, the Legendary Edition has smoothed out some of the rough edges, making it even easier for new players to jump in and get the full experience. Metro Exodus. This game is something else. If you're into immersive worlds with deep storytelling, this one's going to grab you right from the start. I remember jumping in, and immediately, I felt like I was actually there, trudging through the post-apocalyptic Russian wasteland, feeling every bit of that bleak, yet oddly beautiful atmosphere. What's really cool about Metro Exodus is how it takes the series from the underground tunnels and opens it up to these massive open areas without losing that signature claustrophobic tension. You still get those tight, nerve-wracking moments where you're creeping through dark, creepy tunnels. But now, you also have these wide-open spaces that make you feel a sense of freedom and danger at the same time. There's something about walking through a desolate, snowy wasteland and then hearing the distant howl of a mutant that gets your heart racing. Artyom's journey is such an emotional one. He's not just trying to survive. He's out there searching for hope, for a place where humanity can rebuild. You can feel how much this means to him and his crew. That bond between them, especially with his wife Anna, really hit me. You're not just a lone wolf. You've got a family, a team that cares for each other, and that gives everything this extra layer of tension. You want to protect them, to keep them safe. You've got to constantly think about how you're using your resources. Do you craft more ammo, or do you focus on a new gas mask filter because the radiation's about to kill you? That balance adds a lot of strategy to the game. Prey. This is one of those games that should have been a hit, but for whatever reason didn't catch on like it deserved to. And honestly, it's a real shame. Now, the controversy with Prey, it starts with the name. A lot of fans of the original Prey from 2006 were upset that Arkane's game had the same title, but was basically a completely different thing. There was no connection to the original Prey, no Tommy, no spirit abilities, none of that. So, right off the bat, some people were mad because they were expecting a sequel or continuation of the original, but Arkane went in a totally different direction. But if you put that aside and judge Prey for what it is, it's actually one of the best immersive sims out there. Arkane is known for crafting amazing worlds. The level design is just insane. You've got all these interconnected areas, and the way you can approach situations, whether you want to sneak, hack, fight, or even turn into a coffee cup. Yeah, that's a thing. Gives you so much freedom. And let's talk about the Typhon, the alien enemies in the game. The mimics are probably the most memorable. These little guys can disguise themselves as everyday objects, so every time you walk into a room, you're second-guessing everything. Is that chair just a chair, or is it about to jump at me? It adds this constant tension that makes the whole experience so gripping. Combat can be pretty tough, but it's rewarding. The glue gun is such a cool weapon. It's not just for fighting, but you can use it to create platforms and block hazards. No Man's Sky, one of the most controversial video game redemption stories out there. When this game first launched, it got slammed hard, like really hard. People were furious because they felt like they were promised the universe, literally, and what they got didn't live up to all the hype. You know how it is when a game gets hyped beyond belief, right? Expectations just go through the roof. The biggest issues at launch were things like missing features, limited multiplayer options, and overall a lack of the promised living, breathing universe that players thought they'd get. It was a huge deal at the time. Everyone was like, where are the massive space battles? Where's all the depth? Players felt misled, and it led to some pretty angry reviews. No Man's Sky became the poster child for overpromised and underdelivered games. But here's the crazy part. Instead of throwing in the towel, the developers at Hello Games just kept working on it. They didn't give up. And over time, they transformed the game into something truly special. Seriously, the updates have been absolutely massive. They kept adding the features players were hoping for, like base building, expanded multiplayer, better exploration mechanics, and more dynamic planets. Now, it's packed with content, and it's a totally different experience from what people saw at launch. It's honestly one of the most positive turnarounds in gaming. It went from being the game everyone loved to hate, to becoming a beloved space exploration game with a really dedicated fanbase. Stray. When I first saw this game, I thought it was just going to be a charming little game where you play as a cat, exploring a futuristic city. But as I spent more time with it, I discovered it's so much more than that. It's like stepping into an emotional adventure through the eyes of a stray cat navigating a post-apocalyptic world. First off, being a cat in a video game feels surprisingly freeing. There's something deeply satisfying about hopping across rooftops, squeezing through tight spaces, and knocking over random objects just for the fun of it. The game nails the physicality of a cat. Every move feels so fluid and lifelike. It makes you think about how the world looks from their perspective, so close to the ground, yet always agile and in control. The world building in Stray is amazing. It's this blend of cyberpunk and decay, full of neon lights and towering buildings, but also a deep sense of isolation. The city itself feels alive, not in the way you'd expect, but more like it's holding its breath. You meet these small robots along the way, and they're oddly human in their interactions with you, despite being machines. They add a lot of heart to the game. There's a sense of community among them, and you can't help but feel drawn into their lives. The story unravels slowly, but it's layered with meaning. It touches on themes of companionship, survival, and hope in a broken world. The bond you develop with the small drone B-12 is touching in a way I didn't expect. It's funny how a game about a cat, without any dialogue from the main character, can be this emotional. Mad Max. So, I recently had the chance to spend some time with Mad Max, and let me tell you, it's an experience that truly stands out. The game captures the raw, gritty essence of the Mad Max universe so well that it feels like you're right in the heart of that post-apocalyptic wasteland. One of the first things that hit me was the attention to detail in the environment. The desolate landscapes and towering sandstorms are crafted with such precision that they almost feel alive. It's like every corner of the world has a story to tell, and exploring it becomes an adventure in itself. Upgrading and customizing your car, the magnum opus, is an absolute blast. There's something incredibly satisfying about tearing through enemies with a fully upgraded, heavily armed vehicle. And the thrill of high-speed chases and explosive battles really keeps you on the edge of your seat. The narrative is another strong point. Max's journey, filled with intense personal struggles and high-stakes encounters, is engaging from start to finish. It's not just about surviving, it's about finding purpose in a world that's gone mad. The characters you meet along the way, each with their own quirks and backstories, add depth to the story. What's more, the game does a great job of balancing action with exploration. There's always something to discover, whether it's hidden loot, side quests, or just interesting details in the environment. It encourages you to take your time and really soak in the world around you. The combat mechanics are solid. Sniper Elite 5, a game that didn't exactly get the warmest reception from everyone when it launched. Now, if you've played any of the previous Sniper Elite games, you know what you're getting into. Tactical, long-range shooting, and those signature X-ray kill cams that are both brutal and weirdly satisfying. But when Sniper Elite 5 dropped, some people weren't all that impressed, and it ended up getting a bit of hate. One of the main complaints people had was that it didn't feel all that different from Sniper Elite 4. Some players were expecting a bigger leap forward in terms of gameplay and mechanics, but instead, they got more of the same. Now, that's not necessarily a bad thing if you love the formula, but for some, it felt like the game was playing it too safe. People wanted more innovation, and when they didn't get it, the criticism started rolling in. Another controversial aspect is the game's pacing. Sniper Elite 5 is all about slow, methodical gameplay. You're sneaking around, scouting enemies, lining up the perfect shot. It's a thinking person's shooter. But not everyone's down for that kind of experience. But here's the thing. Sniper Elite 5 still absolutely nails what makes the series fun. The maps are massive and give you so many ways to approach your objectives. Whether you want to go in guns blazing or take a more stealthy route, the game gives you that freedom. Also, let's not forget those kill cams. People can criticize the game all they want, but there's nothing quite like watching a perfectly placed shot rip through an enemy's organs in slow motion. Mafia Definitive Edition. Alright, so I just finished this game, and honestly, I'm still processing how good it was. You know when a game just sticks with you? That's how this one feels. I've always had a soft spot for the original Mafia, but this remake? Wow, they really outdid themselves. It's like stepping into the 1930s for real. First off, the atmosphere. I don't know how they nailed the vibe of that era so perfectly. The city of Lost Heaven is just alive. Every little detail, from the cars to the buildings to the music, it really pulls you into that world. There were moments when I just wanted to drive around and take it all in, not even worrying about the mission at hand. Like, who knew 1930s radio stations would get me this hyped? And the story, it's not just a typical mobster narrative. You really get invested in Tommy Angelo's rise in the Salieri crime family. It's like playing through one of those classic gangster movies, but you're in control. I actually found myself sympathizing with him, which is wild considering, he's a criminal. But the voice acting, the facial expressions, it's all so believable. It draws you into the point where you care about these characters, even when they're making some seriously bad choices. Gameplay-wise, it's got that nice balance between action and story. Sure, there are shootouts and car chases, but I think what got me hooked was how well-paced it all felt. It doesn't rush you. The combat feels more polished this time around too. And the driving? I never thought I'd say this, but driving those old-school cars was actually fun. Dying Light the Following. This expansion takes everything you love about Dying Light and cranks it up with a fresh, open-world vibe that feels totally different yet equally intense. It's a brilliant twist on the core game, throwing you into a sprawling countryside where the rules of survival take on a whole new dynamic. Gone are the tight, urban spaces of Heron. And in their place, you get wide-open fields, winding dirt roads, and eerie farmlands where danger feels like it could come from anywhere. The introduction of a customizable buggy is an absolute game-changer. This isn't just a vehicle to get you from point A to point B. It's your lifeline in the countryside. Outrunning hordes of infected or plowing through them with your buggy's reinforced frame never gets old. The upgrade system for the buggy is incredibly satisfying, letting you equip things like flamethrowers, UV lights, and other tools of destruction. It adds a whole new layer to gameplay, making your vehicle feel like an extension of your survival toolkit. Exploration in the following feels different from the base game, thanks to the vast, open environment. You're encouraged to venture off the beaten path, and the world rewards your curiosity with hidden secrets, abandoned buildings, and challenges that keep you on edge. It's not just about scavenging for supplies. It's about adapting to this new environment and figuring out how to use its openness to your advantage. The countryside may look serene from a distance, but it's anything but safe. Combat remains as visceral and thrilling as ever. Need for Speed Unbound, a high-octane ride that throws you right into the heart of street racing with an unmistakable attitude. The focus is all about the thrill of the chase, the rush of the win, and the risk you're willing to take to make a name for yourself in a city that never stops moving. The gameplay is a perfect mix of adrenaline-pumping races, high-stakes police chases, and strategic planning. It's not just about crossing the finish line first, it's about how you get there. Do you take the riskier shortcuts, or do you play it safe and stick to the main road? Every race feels like a gamble, and the rewards always feel worth it. Winning is great, but outsmarting cops in a high-speed pursuit? That's a different kind of rush. Customization is where Unbound really shines. This game gives you the tools to create a car that's truly yours. It's not just about slapping on a coat of paint and calling it a day. You can tweak, upgrade, and style your ride to match your vibe. Whether you're going for sleek and stealthy or loud and flashy, the options feel endless, and every adjustment makes your car feel like an extension of your personality. The races are intense and unpredictable, with a variety of events that keep things fresh. There's a sense of progression that feels earned as you climb the ranks, build your rep, and unlock better rides. The competition is fierce, but that's part of the fun. The game is a love letter to speed, style, and rebellion. Skyrim. Where do you even start with a game like Skyrim? This game is just huge. It's one of those games that just keeps pulling you in, no matter how many times you've played it before. You boot it up thinking, I'll just play for an hour. And next thing you know, it's 3 a.m. and you're sneaking around in the Thieves Guild or fighting a dragon on top of a mountain. First off, the world. It's absolutely massive and it feels alive. From the snowy peaks of the Throat of the World to the rolling plains of Whiterun, every part of Skyrim feels like it has its own story to tell. And the fact that you can go anywhere, do anything, it's such a freeing experience. Like, if you see a mountain in the distance, you can actually go there. And you never know what's going to happen along the way. Maybe you run into a giant, or you stumble upon some hidden cave with its own little quest line. It's just endless discovery. The combat, well, it's classic Skyrim. It's not about being super fancy or fast-paced, but it's about choice. You want to swing a giant axe? Go for it. Prefer sneaking around with a bow or dual-wielding daggers? Totally doable. Or maybe you want to go full wizard, summoning flames and raising the dead. Whatever your style, the game lets you play exactly how you want. And speaking of choice, the quests are insane. Sure, there's the main story about you being the Dragonborn with the whole saving the world thing. But honestly, the side quests are where it's at. You can get caught up joining the Dark Brotherhood and becoming an assassin, or leading the companions and becoming a werewolf. Amnesia the Bunker. We all know Amnesia is famous for its psychological horror, but this time, it's different, more intense, more claustrophobic. You're stuck in this grimy World War I bunker, and it's basically pitch black most of the time. Just that alone is enough to make you feel tense. I found myself constantly worrying about running out of light. I don't know about you, but for me, that's one of the worst feelings in a horror game, when you hear something but can't see it and your light is flickering. Yeah, no thanks. Speaking of the light, the whole mechanic with the hand crank flashlight is brilliant. It's one of those simple things that amps up the dread. You're cranking that thing as fast as you can, praying the batteries don't die while you hear something creeping up behind you. I legit felt my heart rate spike a few times. It adds this layer of vulnerability, but it also gives you just enough control to not feel totally helpless, just mostly helpless. The big difference in the bunker is how much freedom you have to explore. It's not as linear as the previous Amnesia games. You're given this bunker to explore at your own pace, which sounds nice, right? Except there's a monster roaming around that's hunting you the entire time. So, yeah, you're free to roam, but good luck trying to stay calm while something's lurking in the shadows. The bunker itself is like this living, breathing nightmare. It's got that eerie, abandoned vibe, but it's also full of details that make you feel like you're uncovering something dark. The atmosphere is thick with dread. Everything from the sound design to the way light barely reaches down those narrow corridors. Evil West. If you're into games that let you feel like a total badass while fighting supernatural creatures, this one's for you. It's like Red Dead Redemption meets Van Helsing, but with way more punch. First off, the combat is brutal. You've got this mix of melee and ranged weapons that keeps things interesting the entire time. One moment, you're blasting vampires with a rifle, and the next, you're smashing them into pieces with an electrified gauntlet. The flow of switching between weapons and powers feels so natural. I loved how I never felt stuck using one method. The game just encourages you to get creative with the chaos. The story really surprised me too. I went in expecting just some fun, mindless action, but the narrative actually hooked me. You play as Jesse Rentier, this tough-as-nails cowboy working for a secret monster hunting institute, and the whole Wild West meets horror vibe is so well done. It's not Shakespeare, but it fits the tone perfectly. There's this balance of grit and humor in the dialogue that kept me engaged the whole way through. It doesn't take itself too seriously, but it's not just a throwaway plot either. I also love that they didn't overcomplicate things with RPG elements. There are upgrades, sure, but they don't slow down the action. You can upgrade your weapons and skills as you go, but it's straightforward and doesn't bog you down with too many choices. It's more about fine-tuning how you want to fight, which really lets you focus on the combat and the carnage. Baldur's Gate 3. If you're into RPGs or Dungeons & Dragons, this is basically a dream come true. The thing is, it's not just the story. It's the choices you make, the characters you meet, the dice rolls that can completely change how a situation unfolds. Every playthrough feels different, and I love that about it. First off, let's talk about the freedom this game gives you. You can literally do anything. Want to sneak past enemies instead of fighting them? Go for it. Want to convince a dragon to let you pass with just a bit of clever dialogue? Roll those dice. Or if you're feeling chaotic, you can just, blow stuff up with magic and hope for the best. That freedom makes every encounter feel fresh, and it's not just about combat. Your decisions can have lasting consequences on the story, on your companions, and even on the world itself. The story itself is wild. You start off with this mind flayer parasite in your brain, which immediately sets the stakes super high. And as you try to find a cure, you uncover all these other crazy plots and factions vying for control. It's dark, it's epic, and the world is full of so many cool little stories and side quests that it's easy to get lost in it all. The best part? You can shape the story in so many different ways, whether you want to be a hero, a villain, or something in between. The game doesn't force you down one path. It really feels like your journey. It's got that perfect blend of story, character development, and strategic combat, all wrapped up in this beautiful, sprawling world. Cyberpunk 2077. I know it had a rocky start, but seriously, it's a totally different game now after all the updates. The world of Night City is just wow. I mean, if you love getting lost in a huge, neon-lit, gritty open world, this game is perfect. It feels alive, The city's got this cyberpunk vibe down to a T. Dark alleys, giant holograms, futuristic cars, the whole Blade Runner kind of thing. And honestly, I love how the game doesn't shy away from showing the messier side of that world, like the clash of high-tech and low-life. V, the main character, is super customizable too. I spent way too much time tweaking my character at the start, like more than I'd care to admit. But it's fun to play with all the different builds, whether you want to go full-on hacker, cybernetic brawler, or sneaky assassin. Plus, the augmentations, dude, that's the coolest part. You can literally replace parts of your body with cybernetic enhancements. Who wouldn't want a built-in katana arm or optic implants? What's crazy is how the story can change depending on what you do. Like, the choices really feel like they matter. There was this one mission where I was trying to decide whether to help these corporate types or betray them, and man, I was stressing over it for days. I couldn't stop thinking, what if I made the wrong choice? But that's the fun of it. There's no right or wrong answer, just how you want to play it. I will say the driving can be a little wonky at times, but honestly, once you get used to it, it's not that bad. Plus, the city's so massive, it's fun just cruising around, taking in the sights. Lies of P. It's one of those games that takes a classic story and flips it into something totally unexpected. I mean, a dark, twisted version of Pinocchio? Who saw that coming? From the moment I started playing, I knew this wasn't going to be the fairy tale we all grew up with. Instead, it throws you into this grim, steampunk world where everything feels eerie and dangerous. The atmosphere is on point. There's this constant tension in the air, like you're never quite safe, even when you're just walking through a quiet alley. The game wears its inspirations on its sleeve, and if you've played Bloodborne or Dark Souls, you'll feel right at home here. The combat is that familiar, deliberate style, where every swing of your weapon matters, and timing is everything. But Lies of P adds its own twist with the weapon customization system. You can mix and match blades and handles to create your own combos, which gives you a ton of freedom to experiment with different builds. It's honestly so satisfying when you find a combination that just clicks with your playstyle. The enemies are no joke. Each one feels like a real threat, and you can't just rush in and expect to button mash your way through. You've got to be patient, learn their patterns, and strike when the moment is right. And the bosses? They're some of the most intense encounters I've had in a while. Every time I thought I was getting the hang of things, a new boss would come along and completely wreck me. But in the best way. It's that feeling of frustration followed by pure joy when you finally take them down. If you're into challenging combat, Lies of P is definitely worth your time. CUPHEAD. It's a game that doesn't hold your hand. Instead, it hands you a pair of gloves and says, "All right, let's see what you've got." So, what's the deal with CUPHEAD? Well, it's all about boss battles. Big, bold, over-the-top showdowns that'll push your skills to the limit. Each encounter is completely unique, filled with crazy attacks, patterns you have to learn, and that sweet moment of triumph when you finally get it right. And trust me, those victories feel earned. This game doesn't hand them out like candy. The gameplay is fast, precise, and oh so satisfying. You'll be dodging, jumping, and shooting your way through a series of increasingly difficult fights, all while trying to keep track of what's happening on screen. And there's a lot happening on screen. But that's part of the fun. It's all about staying focused, learning the patterns, and figuring out how to outsmart each boss. One thing that really stands out is the variety. You're not just fighting the same type of boss over and over again. Each one feels like its own mini-event, with unique designs and attacks that keep you on your toes. One minute, you're dodging projectiles in a traditional platforming setup, and the next, you're flying through the air in a shoot-'em-up. It's this constant change of pace that keeps the game so engaging. And let's not forget about the co-op mode. Playing with a friend adds a whole new dynamic to the chaos, as you both work together to take down these larger-than-life foes. It's teamwork at its most frantic and fun. AMNESIA Rebirth. What really sets Rebirth apart is how it handles fear. You're not some invincible hero with a shotgun. You're vulnerable, fragile even. And that's what makes every decision feel so important. Do you light that match now to see what's ahead? Or do you save it for later when you might really need it? These are the kinds of choices that keep you constantly engaged. The puzzles are another highlight. They're not just there to slow you down or fill time. They're meaningful. They're tied into the world in ways that make you think, this makes sense here. It's never just about pulling a lever or finding a key. It's about understanding your surroundings, piecing things together, and figuring out how to keep moving forward while the world seems to crumble around you. You'll go from tight, claustrophobic spaces that make you feel like the walls are closing in to wide, open areas that somehow manage to feel even more terrifying because of how exposed you are. It keeps you guessing and constantly on edge, never knowing what's waiting for you around the corner or in the dark. But here's the kicker. Rebirth isn't just about scaring you. It's about pulling you into an experience where the fear feels earned. It's a game that challenges you to face the unknown, to confront your own unease, and to push forward even when everything in you is screaming to turn back. So, if you're looking for a horror game that goes beyond the surface, that doesn't just want to startle you, but truly unsettle you, AMNESIA Rebirth is absolutely worth your time. HELLBLADE: Senua's Sacrifice. I can honestly say, it's unlike anything I've played before. Right from the beginning, it sets a tone that's dark, emotional, and deeply immersive. You can tell it's more than just an action-adventure game. There's a deeper story here, and it pulls you in with every step Senua takes on her journey. The story is so emotional, especially as it deals with mental health in such a powerful way. The way they portray Senua's psychosis, the voices in her head, it's also unsettling but fascinating at the same time. It's like you're constantly living inside her mind, and that really makes you connect with her. It's rare to see a game tackle such a heavy topic with so much respect and depth. And then there's the combat. It's intense, but it's not over the top. It feels personal. Like every fight is a struggle for survival. You're not just slashing through enemies for the sake of it. Each battle feels like it has weight, like Senua's fighting for something bigger. And the way the game makes you feel isolated, with those stunning landscapes that somehow feel both beautiful and haunting, it just adds to the experience. The audio design really stood out to me too. Wearing headphones made a huge difference. The voices surround you, whispering in your ear, sometimes confusing you, sometimes guiding you. It's such a smart use of sound to mess with your mind, making you question what's real. Just like Senua, I found myself genuinely tense during certain moments, not because of jump scares, but because of that constant feeling of unease. Middle-earth: Shadow of War. It got a bit of a rough start, but honestly, deserved way more love than it got. Now, when it dropped back in 2017, the game had a lot of expectations riding on it because Shadow of Mordor was such a hit. And Shadow of War did a lot of things right, but there's no denying it also stirred up some serious controversy, which didn't help its case at launch. First, let's get the big elephant in the room out of the way. The microtransactions. Yep, that's where a lot of the initial hate came from. It was a single-player game, but Warner Bros. Thought, hey, let's toss in loot boxes and microtransactions. Gamers were not having it. Understandably, no one wants to feel like they're being nickeled and dimed in a story-driven experience. What's wild, though, is that they eventually removed the microtransactions completely. But by then, the damage had already been done. A lot of people had already written it off. And that's a real shame because, beyond all the controversy, Shadow of War had so much going for it. First off, that Nemesis system, still genius. I mean, creating rivalries with orcs who remember you, plot against you, or come back from the dead for revenge. It's such a unique mechanic that really makes every playthrough different. The world felt alive, chaotic, and personal, in a way most open-world games dream of achieving. Then, there's the scale of the game. They took what worked in Shadow of Mordor and just made it bigger. More fortresses to conquer, more regions to explore, and even more dynamic relationships with your followers and enemies. Yakuza 6. This game throws you straight into the heart of Kamurocho and the serene beauty of Onomichi, blending the chaotic energy of urban life with the peaceful charm of a small seaside town. It's the kind of game that's packed with personality, letting you dive deep into a world brimming with colorful characters, wild side activities, and plenty of fist-flying action. The combat in Yakuza 6 is a thing of beauty. It's fast, fluid, and packed with over-the-top moves that make every punch and kick feel satisfying. Whether you're brawling with a group of street punks or taking on a tougher challenge in a back alley, the game gives you all the tools to dominate the fight. You can pick up just about anything in the environment, a bike, a sign, even a street cone, and use it to deliver bone-crunching hits that are as brutal as they are hilarious. The seamless transition into combat makes every encounter feel organic, keeping the pace high and the action engaging. Outside of the fights, Yakuza 6 is a playground of activities. This game knows how to keep you entertained when you're not chasing down objectives. There's a fully functional karaoke minigame that lets you belt out tunes in rhythm-based fun. You can hit up a batting cage for a quick home run derby, stop by an arcade to play classic Sega games, or even spend time managing your own cat cafe. Yes, a cat cafe. It's all about variety, and this game delivers in spades. One of the standout features is the Clan Creator Mode. A Plague Tale Requiem. It absolutely should have been in the running for Game of the Year, but didn't quite get the recognition it deserved. This sequel took everything great about A Plague Tale Innocence and cranked it up to a whole new level. The story, the characters, the visuals, it was all so much more intense. And honestly, it hit harder than a lot of people expected. First off, the story in Requiem was a gut punch in the best way. Following Amicia and Hugo's journey through a world ravaged by the plague and the supernatural rat infestation, you could feel the stakes growing as you progressed. What really stood out was the emotional weight of the game. It wasn't just about survival. It was about family, loss, and the lengths you'd go to protect the ones you love. The character development for both Amicia and Hugo was top tier, and by the end, it was impossible not to be emotionally invested in their fate. The game also looked absolutely stunning. The environments were jaw-dropping, whether you were sneaking through crumbling ruins, lush countrysides, or the plague-infested streets. The attention to detail made the world feel alive. Well, as alive as a world overrun by millions of rats can feel. And speaking of the rats, Requiem took the swarming rat mechanic from the first game and made it even crazier. The way they used light and shadow to control and avoid the rats created some of the most tense, nail-biting moments in the game. Another thing to consider is that Requiem came out in 2022, which was a year dominated by games like Elden Ring and God of War Ragnarok. Dead Island 2. It's one of those games that after being in development for so long, you're just happy it finally exists. If you're into zombie games, this one is like a bloody sun-soaked vacation, where you can let loose and hack, slash, and smash your way through hordes of the undead. What's cool about it is that it doesn't take itself too seriously. The game knows exactly what it is, a fun, over-the-top zombie slasher set in sunny California. And sometimes that's exactly what you need. First off, the setting is great. Instead of a gloomy, post-apocalyptic wasteland, Dead Island 2 takes place in a colorful, almost absurdly beautiful version of Los Angeles. They call it Hell-A, and the contrast between the bright, glamorous world of Hollywood and the grotesque, decaying zombies is just awesome. You're running through luxury mansions, beaches, and fancy neighborhoods, all while the city crumbles around you. It's like you're on a demented version of a sightseeing tour. The zombies themselves come in all shapes and sizes, and they're not pushovers. You've got your standard walkers, but there are also faster, more aggressive types, like runners and screamers who can call for reinforcements. Some are armored, others are on fire or covered in acid, and each type forces you to adjust your tactics. It keeps you on your toes and makes the combat feel fresh. You're constantly adapting and finding new ways to take them down, whether it's by using environmental traps, setting them on fire, or just going for headshots. Warhammer Space Marine 2. Honestly, I had pretty high expectations going in, especially since I loved the first game, but this one really blew me away. I just finished it, and I'm still buzzing with adrenaline. If you're into anything Warhammer or just a fan of solid, brutal action games, this one hits all the right notes. Right from the start, I was hooked. You jump back into the boots of Captain Titus, and let me tell you, they've cranked everything up. Titus feels like an absolute force of nature, and the game really nails that power fantasy of being a space marine. Every time I smashed into a group of Tyranids, it felt like I was carving through them like a god of war. And these Tyranids are terrifying. The way they swarm you, it's a mix of pure chaos and strategic survival. Speaking of strategy, the game's combat is deeper than it looks at first. Sure, you can charge in swinging that chainsword and ripping through enemies, but you've got to think a bit too. You can't just button mash your way to victory, especially with those massive bosses. They've got these intricate patterns, so it feels like a dance between brute force and tactical moves. When I finally took down one of the bigger enemies after like 15 minutes of dodging and countering, it was such a satisfying moment. I felt like I earned that victory. And the story is more than just a mindless shooter, that's for sure. There are moments where the weight of war, the cost of being a space marine, really hit. Titus's arc feels more fleshed out this time around. He's not just a badass in power armor. The Last of Us. Oh man, where do I even begin? You know how some games just stick with you long after you've finished them? That's exactly what The Last of Us did for me. It's so emotionally charged. Like, I knew it was going to be intense, but it's even more than I expected. Joel and Ellie's relationship? It's not just a typical protect the girl storyline. They feel like real people with real flaws. I think that's what I loved most, how raw and human it all feels. You watch them grow together in this messed up world, and it's not always pretty, but it's real. Speaking of the world, the post-apocalyptic setting is both terrifying and beautiful at the same time. Naughty Dog nailed that feeling of dread when you're walking through those overgrown cities. It's eerie, especially with the sound design. The clickers? Man, every time I heard them, my heart rate went up. And they're not even the worst part. The humans in this game? Sometimes they're scarier than the infected. But honestly, it's the quieter moments that hit me the hardest. There's this one scene with Ellie in the giraffe sequence that made me just stop and take it in. In a world where everything's falling apart, there are still these tiny glimpses of beauty, you know? It makes you think about how people hold on to hope, even in the worst situations. Gameplay-wise, it's super tight. There's this constant balance of stealth, action, and scavenging. But what I appreciated most was how every encounter felt like it had stakes. You don't always have enough resources to just go guns blazing. Resident Evil 2 Remake. Just have to say, it's one of those rare gems that genuinely impresses on every level. When Capcom decided to breathe new life into this classic, they didn't just update the graphics, they reimagined the entire experience. From the moment you start the game, the atmosphere grabs you. The detailed environments, the haunting sounds, and the meticulously crafted lighting all work together to create this incredibly immersive experience. It's like stepping back into Raccoon City with a whole new set of eyes. And the characters? Oh man, Leon and Claire are better than ever. Their voice acting feels authentic, their emotions resonate, and you really start to care about their journey. It's so much more than just a survival horror game. It's a story about resilience and courage in the face of unimaginable odds. The gameplay is also top-notch. The over-the-shoulder camera is such a brilliant choice. It adds a layer of tension and immediacy that makes every encounter with a zombie or licker feel intensely personal. And those moments when you're low on ammo, frantically searching for a safe room, they're the stuff of pure adrenaline. What's really impressive is how the remake pays homage to the original while still offering something fresh. The puzzles and level design have been updated, but they maintain the spirit of what made the 1998 version so special. It's like rediscovering an old friend who's now even cooler and more complex. Dying Light 2. Another game that stumbled out of the gate, but is actually pretty awesome when you take a closer look. So, when Dying Light 2 was first announced, people were hyped. The original Dying Light was a sleeper hit, with its intense parkour system and brutal combat, so expectations were sky high for the sequel. But then, delays happened. Lots of them. And with every delay, the excitement started turning into skepticism. When it finally launched in 2022, some people felt like it didn't quite live up to the years of anticipation, and there was plenty of chatter about bugs and performance issues, which, to be fair, did hurt its reputation right out of the gate. But here's the thing. Once you actually dive into Dying Light 2, you realize there's a ton to love about this game. First off, the parkour system is still one of the best in gaming. Running, jumping, and swinging through the city of Villador feels fluid and rewarding. They took what worked in the original and just cranked it up a notch. You really feel like you're flying through this post-apocalyptic world, dodging zombies and hopping between rooftops. The combat? Absolutely brutal. Smacking zombies and bandits with improvised weapons, drop-kicking them off rooftops. It never gets old. Plus, the day-night cycle adds a whole other layer of tension. The zombies are slow and manageable during the day, but at night, man, they become terrifying. It's a heart-pounding experience when you're scrambling to find shelter as the sun goes down and the city gets overrun. Forza Horizon 5. Even if you're not a racing game person, trust me, you'll still find something to love here. It's like a love letter to cars, exploration, and just having a good time behind the wheel. Remember when you used to race toy cars around your living room, making up little adventures as you went? Forza Horizon 5 brings that same energy, but cranks it up to 11. It's not just about winning races, though that's fun too. It's about playing. The freedom you have to do whatever you want is amazing. They've got everything from souped-up classics to hypercars that look like they belong in a sci-fi movie. And the customization. You can tweak everything. Paint jobs, performance, even little decals. It's like a car nerd's dream come true. But don't worry, you don't have to be a gearhead to enjoy it. The game does a great job of keeping things accessible. Whether you're a casual player or a hardcore racer, the controls are just buttery smooth, and the way each car handles feels unique. Want to go off-roading in a big, beefy truck? Go for it. Prefer zipping through city streets in a sleek sports car? Done. It's not just racing, it's an experience. And the best part? You don't even have to race if you don't want to. There are stunt challenges, speed traps, exploration events. It's like a big automotive playground. And the seasonal changes? Genius. The world evolves over time. So one week you might be racing in dry deserts, and the next you're dealing with torrential rain. It keeps things fresh and gives you an excuse to keep coming back. BioShock 2 Remastered. When people talk about the BioShock series, BioShock 2 sometimes gets a bit overshadowed by its big siblings, BioShock and BioShock Infinite. But you know what? BioShock 2 absolutely deserves its own spotlight. It's like discovering this hidden gem that's been sitting in plain sight the whole time. Every time you step into that murky, neon-lit world, it's like visiting a strange, haunted wonderland. Rapture's got that perfect mix of beauty and horror. Like, you're constantly amazed by how stunning the place is, but also can't shake off that creepy feeling. And here, in BioShock 2, you get to explore whole new parts of the city that you didn't see in the first game. It feels familiar, but also fresh, like revisiting an old dream and finding new details everywhere. But what really makes BioShock 2 stand out is the role you play. This time, you're not just any character, you're a Big Daddy. I mean, come on, how awesome is that? You get to stomp around in this massive diving suit, wield a freaking drill, and protect little sisters. And let me tell you, there's something really special about seeing Rapture from the perspective of a Big Daddy. You feel powerful, sure, but there's also a sense of responsibility that wasn't there before. It's a surprisingly emotional experience, and honestly, it hits harder than I expected. The combat feels smoother and more intense, especially since you can dual-wield your plasmids and weapons at the same time. Assassin's Creed Origins. It didn't win Game of the Year, but absolutely deserved to be in the conversation. After the series took a bit of a break, Origins came back swinging, and it basically reinvented the entire franchise. This was the game that moved Assassin's Creed from a more linear, mission-based structure to a full-blown open-world RPG. And it did it in style. First off, ancient Egypt as a setting? Incredible. The world they built in Origins was stunning, from the sprawling deserts to the bustling cities of Alexandria and Memphis. You could just wander around for hours, exploring tombs, pyramids, and hidden secrets. The amount of detail they put into recreating Egypt was mind-blowing, and it felt like you were actually stepping into history. Plus, playing as the first assassin was a breath of fresh air. He was such a well-rounded character, with a personal story that drove the whole plot forward in a meaningful way. The combat system was also completely overhauled. Gone were the days of just counter-killing everything in sight. Origins introduced a more dynamic, skill-based combat system that required you to dodge, block, and actually strategize during fights. It felt much more engaging and challenging compared to the older games. They also introduced RPG elements like leveling up, skill trees, and loot, which added a ton of depth to the gameplay. But here's the thing. 2017 was a ridiculously stacked year for gaming. Kingdom Come Deliverance. It's not your typical medieval RPG, and that's exactly what makes it so special. When I first started, I was blown away by how grounded it feels. You're not some chosen one or knight in shining armor. You're just Henry, a blacksmith's son. And that's one of the best things about it. The game doesn't hold your hand, and it really throws you into this unforgiving world of Bohemia. It's gritty, realistic, and refreshingly different from other RPGs that lean into fantasy. The realism in this game is next level. There's no magic or dragons here. Everything is based on actual historical events, and the attention to detail is crazy. The armor, the weapons, the way people live. It's also authentic, and that extends to the gameplay too. The combat system, for example, is super unique. It's not just about button mashing your way through fights. It's tactical, slow-paced, and takes a lot of practice to get right. Sword fighting in particular feels so different from any other game. It's all about timing, positioning, and strategy. You really need to pay attention to how your opponent moves. What I love about Kingdom Come Deliverance is how immersive the world is. The landscape is stunning, and the towns and villages feel alive. You walk through the streets, and people are going about their daily routines. There's a sense that life continues, whether you're there or not. The historical accuracy is something else too. The game takes place during an actual period in history. Spec Ops: The Line. It's one of those games that messes with your expectations in the best way. I remember going into it thinking, oh, just another military shooter, right? At first glance, it looks like your standard third-person cover shooter. You're leading a squad, you've got your guns, sandstorms everywhere because it's set in Dubai, and it all seems pretty straightforward, but as you dig deeper, that's where things start to unravel. The story pulls you in directions you don't expect, and it really makes you question your choices, like seriously question them. What I loved about Spec Ops: The Line is how it uses the setting and the characters to play with your mind. You start feeling like the hero, but after certain missions you're like, wait, am I doing the right thing here? The game gets into some heavy stuff about the horrors of war and the consequences of your actions, which is something most shooters don't really touch on. It's more than just, go here, shoot this. There's a layer of guilt and responsibility that weighs on you by the end. Plus, the gameplay is solid. I mean, the shooting mechanics are great, the cover system works well, and the environmental destruction with the sandstorms is a cool twist. But really, the gameplay is just a vehicle for the narrative, and that's what elevates this game from being just another shooter to something special. You don't see a lot of games that really make you reflect on the violence in that way. Honestly, if you're into games that challenge you emotionally and mentally, while still delivering fun, engaging action, Spec Ops is a must. Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown. A game that feels like a love letter to the roots of the series while bringing something fresh and bold to the table. Movement feels like a dance, fluid, fast-paced, and incredibly rewarding when you string it all together. Sargon isn't just your run-of-the-mill protagonist. He's equipped with an arsenal of moves that make traversal and combat a treat. Whether you're wall running, dodging traps, or leaping across massive gaps, there's a rhythm to it that feels so satisfying. And then there's the combat. Let me tell you, it's not just about hacking and slashing your way through enemies. Every encounter demands strategy. You'll have to master dodges, parries, and combos to succeed. Enemies aren't pushovers. They're smart, they're tough, and they'll make you think on your feet. But that's part of the fun, right? When you finally take down a tricky foe after figuring out their patterns, It's such a rush. One thing that stands out about The Lost Crown is how it balances exploration and combat. The world is layered with secrets and challenges that encourage you to look beyond the obvious. It's not just about moving from point A to point B. It's about figuring out how to get there, what's hidden along the way, and how to overcome obstacles that aren't always straightforward. The game constantly rewards curiosity, and every time you uncover something new, it feels like a win. Speaking of obstacles, the puzzles in this game are no joke. They're clever, varied, and so satisfying to solve. The Witcher 3. Blood and Wine. This expansion feels like a full-blown adventure of its own. The moment you step foot here, you'll notice how vibrant and distinct the region is, filled with rolling vineyards, colorful towns, and plenty of mystery lurking beneath the surface. Combat remains razor-sharp and strategic, with plenty of opportunities to test out different builds, potions, and tactics. The enemies in Toussaint are as unique as the land itself, with new creatures and foes that challenge your skills in fresh ways. Whether you're engaging in swordplay, using signs to control the battlefield, or preparing for a fight with meticulous planning, every encounter feels satisfying. Exploration in Blood and Wine is an absolute highlight. Toussaint is filled with hidden treasures, intriguing side quests, and areas that beg to be explored. From quaint villages to ominous ruins, each location feels handcrafted and packed with detail. Taking the time to wander off the beaten path often leads to some of the game's most memorable moments, and the world rewards curiosity at every turn. One of the standout features here is the attention to customization. Blood and Wine introduces new armor sets, upgrades, and even a personal vineyard that you can enhance. It's a small touch, but it adds a layer of connection to the world. Toussaint is a land that feels alive, brimming with charm, danger, and opportunities to immerse yourself in its world. It's the kind of expansion that reminds you why The Witcher 3 is considered one of the best RPGs ever made. Mafia 2. This game hits differently. It's got this classic, almost cinematic feel to it, like you're stepping into an old mobster movie. From the moment it starts, you're drawn into this gritty 1940s and 50s world where the cars are big, the suits are sharp, and everything's just dripping with atmosphere. The setting of Empire Bay feels alive, like you can almost smell the exhaust from the cars and hear the hum of jazz coming out of a diner as you pass by. But what really gets me about Mafia 2 is the story. You're following Vito Scaletta, this guy who's just trying to make a life for himself after returning home from World War II. And you feel for the guy. He's not some untouchable, over-the-top hero. He's just a regular dude who gets sucked into this whole criminal underworld. And it's not even glamorous. Mafia 2 makes it pretty clear that this life comes with heavy consequences. The missions are top-notch too. One minute you're robbing a jewelry store. The next you're in this intense shootout, ducking behind cars and trading gunfire. It's got this old-school classic gangster vibe. One thing I love is how Mafia 2 doesn't overdo the open-world stuff. It's not like you're getting sidetracked with a million random activities. The game keeps its focus tight on the story, which I appreciate. It feels like every mission matters, and you're always pushing forward to see what happens next. Even though it's been years since it came out, Mafia 2 still holds up. Red Dead Redemption. Even after all these years, it's one of those games that still holds a special place in gaming history. It's more than just a cowboy game. It's a deep, emotional journey set in the fading days of the Wild West. You play as John Marston, a former outlaw, trying to leave his past behind. But of course, it's never that simple. The game's world, story, and characters are all top tier, pulling you into this incredible, open-world experience. The gunplay is smooth, with that satisfying dead-eye system that lets you slow down time and pick off targets with precision. Whether you're involved in epic shootouts or quick-draw duels, the action feels cinematic and intense. But it's not all about combat. You can spend just as much time exploring, engaging in side missions, or even playing mini-games like poker and horseshoes. The story is also a huge draw. John Marston's journey is one of redemption, family, and loyalty, and it's so well written. The characters you meet along the way, from outlaws to lawmen to settlers, are all memorable and feel like they're part of this living, breathing world. You get attached to these characters, and by the end, you're really invested in John's fate. The emotional weight of the story is one of the reasons why this game is still talked about as one of the best. The ending, without spoiling anything, is one of the most impactful and talked about conclusions in gaming. It's the kind of story that sticks with you long after you've finished it. The Order 1886. I know it got mixed reviews when it came out, but honestly, I think it's super underrated. It's like every single thing from the cobblestone streets to the smoke-filled taverns feels alive. You can really see how much love went into building that world. The steampunk vibe is also really cool. You've got this mix of old-school Victorian aesthetic with futuristic tech, like those crazy weapons that Nikola Tesla himself designed. The thermite rifle, for example, is just so satisfying to use. You shoot clouds of thermite at enemies, and then light it up with a flare, setting everything ablaze. It's so over the top, but in the best way possible. And the story? It's actually pretty engaging. You're part of this ancient order of knights tasked with keeping the peace in London, but things get real complicated, especially with the introduction of half-breeds, like werewolves, and other supernatural threats. Plus, the way it blends history with fantasy, that was a fun twist for me. Sir Galahad, the main character, has this gruff, no-nonsense attitude that really pulls you into the whole mystery and intrigue of the game. I liked how he's conflicted, dealing with betrayal and questioning everything around him. It gave the game more emotional depth than I expected. The gunplay is solid too. It's not a massive, open-world shooter, but for a more linear experience, the mechanics work great. Each weapon feels unique, and the cover system is smooth. And those cinematic quick-time events? I know some people aren't fans of QTEs, but here they blend so well with the action. It feels more like you're playing through a movie. Hitman 3. Now this is a game that just gets the whole stealth genre right. I love how it puts you in the shoes of Agent 47, and suddenly you feel like this ultimate, cool-headed assassin. What makes it special is the freedom it gives you to approach every mission how you want. Like, you're dropped into these huge, intricately designed sandboxes, and then it's up to you to figure out how you're going to take down your targets. Do you go all stealthy, blend into the crowd, and take your time? Or do you throw caution to the wind, cause chaos, and improvise? Either way, it's a blast. The level design in Hitman 3 is just genius. I'm still thinking about the Dubai mission, starting at the top of that skyscraper. Looking out over the city from a literal cloud level, it's breathtaking. And then there's the Dartmoor level, which is like something straight out of a detective novel. You can actually pose as a detective investigating a murder while planning a murder. It's just so creative, giving you this puzzle box of opportunities to play around with. And there's always that moment when you figure out a crazy way to eliminate your target that feels so satisfying, like, I can't believe I just pulled that off. Another thing I love is how replayable it is. You finish a mission, and then you start thinking, wait, what if I tried it this way? Or, what if I used that secret passage I missed the first time? It's not about following some rigid plan. It's about adapting on the fly and making it work. Honestly, Hitman 3 is one of those games that I keep coming back to. It's smart, stylish, and just a ton of fun. Disco Elysium. This isn't your typical video game. There are no epic boss fights, no laser-shooting guns, and no saving the world from a galaxy-ending threat. What you get instead is a deeply personal, weirdly hilarious, and sometimes emotional journey that sticks with you long after the credits roll. The premise is simple. You wake up as a detective with the world's worst hangover and zero memory of who you are or what you're supposed to be doing. Oh, and there's a murder to solve. But trust me, it's so much more than just a crime story. This is a game about choices, messy, chaotic, and completely human choices. And the best part, it never judges you for them. In most games, failing means you reload your last save and try again. Not here. In Disco Elysium, failing is just another part of the story. Maybe you'll bungle an interrogation, or maybe your attempt at a dramatic speech will turn into an awkward disaster. Either way, the game rolls with it, and often, the failures lead to some of the funniest or most touching moments. The way the game handles morality and themes is another standout. It's not about being a good or bad detective. It's about being your detective. You can play as a bumbling fool, a philosophical genius, or even a complete mess of contradictions. And the game never forces you into a box. It's about exploring who you are in this broken world, and trust me, some of the outcomes from your choices are hilarious. If you're up for a journey that's more about the questions than the answers, give this game a shot. The Crew 2. This is a game that feels like it was made for anyone who's ever looked at a car, plane, or boat and thought, yeah, I could probably do some wild stuff with that. It's not just about driving. It's about the thrill of being unleashed on an enormous open-world playground. and turning it into your personal motorsports festival. Whether you're tearing through city streets in a hypercar, skimming over water in a speedboat, or pulling off insane aerobatics in a stunt plane, the crew, too, doesn't just invite you to go big, it practically demands it. This game doesn't hold back when it comes to variety. One moment, you're weaving through traffic in downtown Los Angeles, and the next, you're roaring across the Mississippi River in a powerboat. And the best part? You can switch between vehicles on the fly. It's a seamless transition that adds so much personality to the experience. Want to launch off a mountain in your car, switch midair to a plane, and finish by landing in a river as a boat? The freedom here is absolutely unhinged in the best way possible. The map is massive, covering a condensed version of the United States. It's not just about the size, though. It's about how alive it feels. Highways stretch endlessly, countryside sprawls out invitingly, and cities buzz with a certain kinetic energy. Each location feels distinct, and the way the environments cater to the vehicles you're using is incredibly satisfying. Flying over the Grand Canyon or speeding across the swamps of Florida gives every type of vehicle its time to shine. The Division 2. It's like someone took the best parts of a cover-based shooter, mashed them up with RPG elements, and then dropped it all into a beautifully detailed, post-apocalyptic Washington, D.C. So the setup is simple. The world's gone sideways, and it's your job to bring some order to the chaos. You're an agent of the Division, a group of super-trained operatives trying to hold everything together. But honestly, the real fun isn't in saving the day. It's in exploring, strategizing, and slowly building yourself into an unstoppable force of nature. The game is all about cover-based strategy here. Running into a fight, guns blazing? Yeah, good luck with that. Instead, you're ducking behind cars, flanking enemies, and figuring out how to use your gadgets to outsmart the other side. And those gadgets? Absolute lifesavers. Turrets, drones, seeker mines. You've got a whole arsenal of futuristic toys to mess with, and they're all ridiculously fun to use. The enemies aren't just bullet sponges either. They're smart. They'll flank you, use cover, and coordinate to take you down. There's a real sense of satisfaction when you clear an area because you earned it. Every firefight feels intense and rewarding, especially when you're playing with friends. Speaking of which, co-op is where this game truly shines. Rolling into a mission with your squad, calling out targets and covering each other's backs. It's peak teamwork. Plus, there's something hilarious about your buddy panicking over the comms while you're casually tossing a healing grenade their way. The Callisto Protocol. It's from Glenn Schofield, one of the co-creators of Dead Space, so if you know that series, you can expect a similar intensity here, with a unique twist that keeps things fresh. One of the things I love about this game is how it creates tension. It's not just jump scares, though there are a few really effective ones. It's that constant feeling of dread. You're almost always low on ammo and health, so every encounter with the twisted, mutated inmates of this prison feels like a struggle to survive. The combat is brutal and up close, forcing you to really get in there and make every swing count. It's not your typical action game where you can just spray bullets and move on. Here, you're scraping by with whatever resources you can find, and it adds so much to the immersion and intensity. The combat is visceral. There's this raw, almost primal feel to it. The melee system in particular is pretty unique for a horror game. You actually have to get in close to bash these creatures, and it's terrifying in the best way. You're not just standing back with a gun. You're practically fighting for your life in every encounter, which makes the experience that much more intense. What really stands out, though, is how the game creates this balance between horror and sci-fi mystery. Sure, you're dealing with terrifying creatures and survival, but there's also this big, intriguing story underneath it all. Why did everything go wrong on Callisto? What's causing these transformations? The game does a great job of feeding you bits and pieces of the narrative as you go. Dragon's Dogma 2. You know, after playing this game, I have to say it really exceeded my expectations. I mean, I was excited going in, sure, but once I actually got my hands on it, I realized just how much Capcom stepped up their game. Everything feels bigger, better, and more immersive than the first one. First off, the world is massive. I remember just wandering around for hours, not even on a quest, just exploring. The sense of adventure is so strong here. Every corner of the map feels like it has something interesting to uncover. Whether it's a hidden cave, a random group of enemies, or just a breathtaking view, you always feel like you're discovering something new. The combat, though, that's where the game shines. It's fast, fluid, and really customizable. I spent so much time tweaking my character's build, trying out different classes. One moment I was a nimble strider, darting around enemies, and the next I was a towering warrior smashing through everything. Every fight feels dynamic, especially with the new monster encounters. Those big hulking creatures, they're no joke. Climbing onto their backs mid-fight is such a rush. But what I loved most was the pawn system. They've really refined it. My pawn wasn't just a sidekick, they were essential. I grew so attached to them, seeing how they adapted to my playstyle. Sometimes I felt like they were learning faster than I was. It's cool to see your pawn in someone else's game too. I got some great items because other players were borrowing mine and leveling them up. The Surge. I went into it thinking, okay, another sci-fi post-apocalyptic action RPG. But it's so much more than that. The whole concept of this broken-down, futuristic factory setting is just awesome. It's gritty, industrial, and feels like everything is falling apart, which really adds to that sense of desperation as you're trying to survive. And honestly, the world building is better than I expected. You slowly uncover bits of the story as you explore, and the more you dig, the more you realize just how messed up everything is. Now, I've got to talk about the combat because that's really the star of the show here. It's tough, methodical, and every fight feels like it could be your last. But here's the twist that sets it apart. The whole targeting limbs mechanic. It's genius. You don't just hack and slash randomly. You're strategically aiming for enemy body parts. Want that awesome new arm gear? You better take it from your enemy. It makes every encounter feel like a high-stakes chess match, where you're constantly weighing the risk of going for the kill or trying to grab new loot. And the exosuit? Such a cool feature. It feels like you're wearing this clunky, powerful piece of machinery, and as you upgrade it, you can feel yourself getting stronger. But at the same time, the enemies ramp up in difficulty, so you're never too comfortable. It keeps you on your toes, for sure. Plus, the suit customization adds a ton of variety to the gameplay. So, yeah, the Surge is a gem. Persona 5. Without spoiling anything, you play as a high school student with a secret double life. By day, you're navigating the trials and tribulations of school, classes, exams, and hanging out with your friends. But by night, you're a phantom thief, sneaking into mysterious realms to change hearts and fight evil. It's as cool as it sounds, trust me. The menus, the animations, even the transitions, everything feels like it was designed by someone with a passion for flair. Every little detail screams, we're going to make this look amazing, even if it's just a loading screen. And don't even get me started on the music. The jazzy soundtrack is the kind of thing you'll be humming for weeks after you play. And the gameplay. It's this perfect blend of turn-based combat and life simulation, and somehow it works beautifully. One moment you're strategizing in these gorgeous, surreal dungeons, pulling off stylish combos and unleashing your personas, which, by the way, are basically manifestations of your inner psyche. The next, you're deciding how to spend your free time. Do you study for your next exam, work a part-time job, or go out for ramen with your friends? The balance between these two sides of the game is just chef's kiss. What I love most, though, is how Persona 5 makes everything you do feel meaningful. Spending time with your friends, called confidants, isn't just fun, it also gives you bonuses in battle. Doing well in school or working a part-time job helps you build skills that open up even more opportunities. Even the smallest choices feel like they matter. Marvel's Spider-Man Remastered. This game is, in a word, awesome. I mean, we're talking about one of the most exhilarating open-world experiences out there. Right from the start, the game drops you into this beautifully crafted New York City. And let me just say, it's not just any New York. It's a New York packed with detail, life, and personality. You've got bustling streets, landmarks, and people actually going about their day. It's honestly such a joy just exploring, whether you're swinging past Central Park or chilling on the top of the Empire State Building. The world feels alive, and it makes being Spider-Man feel real. And that web-swinging mechanic, oh, it's a dream. There's this rhythm to it that you quickly get into, and before you know it, you're zipping through buildings, performing aerial tricks, and just feeling unstoppable. I've got to say, even if there were no missions and all you could do was swing around, it would still be a blast. It's that good. The movement is smooth, intuitive, and just fun. There's no other word for it. It makes you feel like a pro within minutes, yet it's so satisfying that you'll still be enjoying it hours later. And then there's the combat. It's a perfect blend of strategy, agility, and good old-fashioned brawling. You're not just swinging fists, you're flipping, dodging, using gadgets, and keeping an eye on the environment. The game lets you approach fights however you want. You can go in stealthy, plan out your attacks, or just jump in and start kicking. It's totally up to you. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. If you played Final Fantasy VII Remake, you're already familiar with the epic world and characters, but Rebirth just takes everything up a notch. Midgar was this dark, gritty industrial setting in Remake, but Rebirth opens things up. You get to see more of Gaia, explore lush forests, massive plains, and mysterious ruins that feel like they're hiding 1,000 secrets. And then, there's the combat. Oh boy, if you thought the battles in Remake were good, Rebirth steps it up. It's still that real-time, action-packed combat system, but everything feels smoother and more refined. Switching between characters mid-battle is seamless, and they each bring something totally unique to the table. Cloud's powerful sword slashes, Tifa's quick martial arts, Barrett's massive gun arm. Everyone has a role, and you get to experiment with strategies that make every encounter exciting. And the materia system is back, so you're constantly tweaking your setups, figuring out the best combos for each fight. Oh, and the bosses? Unreal. Square Enix did not hold back. Each boss feels like its own mini-movie, with incredible animations, massive attacks, and a level of intensity that keeps you on the edge of your seat. And it's not just about the challenge. Each boss battle feels personal, like you're part of something epic. And the summons, summoning Ifrit, Shiva, or one of the other iconic Final Fantasy summons, just feels so satisfying. They show up, wreck shop, and leave you thinking, yep, that's why I love Final Fantasy. Doom 4. This game brought back the old-school shooter in the best way possible, but still didn't take home the Game of the Year award. And I'm still scratching my head over that, because Doom was an absolute beast when it dropped. It was like ID Software said, let's show everyone how a real first-person shooter is done. First of all, Doom nailed the pacing. It was fast, chaotic, and brutal. Everything you want in a Doom game. They took that classic run-and-gun formula and cranked it up to 11. You're constantly moving, jumping, and tearing through demons like a one-man wrecking crew. The combat was a symphony of destruction, where stopping meant death. And let's not forget the glory kills, where you get rewarded for ripping apart demons up close in the most satisfying ways possible. The thing that made Doom stand out was how unapologetically old school it was. No cover mechanics, no reloading, just pure adrenaline-fueled action. It felt like a return to form for the genre. And in a sea of shooters that were leaning more toward tactical, slow-paced gameplay, Doom was like a wake-up call. It reminded everyone why the original Doom was such a phenomenon back in the day. Why it didn't win Game of the Year. One reason could be that it released in a pretty stacked year. 2016 had Overwatch taking a lot of the spotlight, and multiplayer shooters were all the rage. Doom, on the other hand, was a more solo-focused experience. Sure, it had a multiplayer mode, but that's not what people played it for. Shadow of the Tomb Raider. For some reason, it didn't get the love it deserved when it first came out. I mean, Lara Croft is a gaming icon, and the rebooted trilogy had been going strong, but when Shadow of the Tomb Raider dropped, it kind of flew under the radar for a lot of people. But honestly, this game is way better than its reputation suggests. Well, a lot of it came down to timing. Shadow of the Tomb Raider launched during a crowded time, with some big AAA games releasing around the same period, so it got overshadowed. Plus, some critics said it didn't do enough to innovate from the previous two games. People expected something groundbreaking after Rise of the Tomb Raider, but instead, they got a game that felt more like an evolution than a revolution. But here's the thing, what's so bad about sticking to a formula that works? The story, for example, is actually pretty deep. And let's not forget the world building. Shadow of the Tomb Raider has some of the most beautiful environments in the entire series. From dense jungles to hidden tombs. The game is visually stunning. The tombs themselves are more complex and rewarding than before, with some really creative puzzles that feel satisfying to solve. If you love the exploration and puzzle-solving aspects of Tomb Raider, this game nails it. Combat also feels more refined. Sure, it's not the focus as much as it was in the earlier reboot games, but that actually works in the game's favor. Shadow of the Tomb Raider encourages stealth and strategy over pure action, which fits the tone of the game. Gears 5. Even if you're new to the Gears series, trust me, Gears 5 is an amazing place to jump in. It's got everything you'd want in a blockbuster game, great characters, intense firefights, and a world that's equal parts beautiful and brutal. The combat in Gears 5 feels incredibly smooth, and every gunfight has that intense, cover-based strategy that makes Gears so satisfying. Popping out from cover, landing that perfect headshot, or getting up close and personal with the Lancer's chainsaw never gets old. There's something just downright satisfying about how combat feels here. Each weapon has a unique kick to it, so you're never just mindlessly firing away. It's all about timing and positioning. Plus, with the addition of Jack, your handy little drone buddy, you get some new abilities that mix things up in fun ways. He can cloak you, zap enemies, and even fetch items, so he's a true lifesaver in tight spots. And let's take a second to appreciate the world. Gears 5 introduces these open-world sections where you can explore on this sweet vehicle called the Skiff. Just zipping across the snowy tundra or the desert sands is a vibe all on its own. The world feels alive and dynamic, with lots of cool, hidden places to discover. It's not exactly a fully open world, but it's enough to let you roam around and soak in the atmosphere, and it really breaks up the action nicely. You're not just going from one big fight to the next. You actually have time to breathe, explore, and take in some amazing views. The story here actually has some serious depth. A Way Out. This game really caught me off guard in the best way possible. If you've ever wanted a true co-op experience, like a game where you have to rely on another person to progress, this is it. And it's not just some side feature. Co-op is literally baked into the entire game. You can't play this solo, and honestly, that's what makes it awesome. So, you're basically playing as these two guys, Leo and Vincent, who are trying to break out of prison. But it's not just a prison break game. It's so much more. You get to know these two characters, their stories, and how their lives are intertwined. What's cool is that both players control one of them, and each player has their own unique perspective and role in the story. It feels like you're part of a movie, where every scene is intense and meaningful. The way the split screen works is genius. Even though you're doing different things sometimes, like one person might be sneaking around while the other is in a fist fight, it all flows together. And you have these moments where you've got to coordinate with your partner, timing a move or making a plan to escape or fight. And when you pull it off, it feels so satisfying. You really need to communicate and work together, which makes it such a fun experience if you're playing with a friend. One of the best parts? The variety. You're not just breaking out of prison and that's it. No way. There are car chases, stealth sections, emotional moments, and even a few mini-games that you wouldn't expect. What I love is how the story keeps building. It's not just about escaping. It's about the relationship between Leo and Vincent. Watch Dogs Legion. This game really took the whole open-world hacking thing to another level. The first thing that hit me was the setting, London. And not just any version of London, but this near-future dystopian London where everything is under heavy surveillance, and the government is basically a dictatorship. The way they captured the city, though, it's spot on. From Big Ben to Camden Market, every corner of London feels alive, and it's just cool to explore this iconic city in a way you've never seen before. But the real hook for Legion? It's got to be that play as anyone system. Like, literally anyone you see walking down the street, you can recruit into your squad. I remember at first I thought, okay, but surely this is just a gimmick, right? Nope. You actually build a team of characters, and each one has their own backstory, abilities, and quirks. I had this old lady on my team. Seriously, a grandma. And she was walking around, slow as anything, but she had some tech skills that were unbeatable. There's just something hilarious about seeing her take down an enemy in the most casual way possible. And that's what's fun about it. Everyone you recruit adds something different to your team, and it makes you think about how you approach missions. You could be rolling with a construction worker who can call in a cargo drone to fly over buildings, or a spy with a silenced pistol and a fancy sports car. And of course, Legion is all about that hacking life. You're controlling drones, hijacking cars, hacking cameras, all with a few button presses. Far Cry 5. It's got all the things you'd expect from a Far Cry game. Open-world chaos, intense gunfights, and that sense of freedom to approach missions however you want. But this time, it's all set in the rural heartland of America, and that gives it a totally different vibe. What I loved about Far Cry 5 is how open-ended the gameplay is. You can literally do things your way. Want to storm a cult outpost, guns blazing? Go for it. Prefer to sneak around with a bow, taking out enemies silently? That works too. And then there's the ridiculous factor. This is a game where you can call in a bear named Cheeseburger or a dog, Boomer, to help you in battle. It's over the top in the best way. One of the big changes in Far Cry 5 is the way missions work. There's no set structure or main storyline that you're forced to follow. Instead, you earn resistance points by completing side missions, liberating outposts, and causing general chaos. As you build up resistance in each region, the story progresses naturally. It's a cool way to keep things feeling dynamic, and lets you choose how you want to play. There's also a ton of customization. You can upgrade your weapons, unlock perks, and even hire guns for hire to help you out in tough situations. There's a strategy to how you approach each mission, but it's always balanced by that freedom to just go nuts if you want to. One thing that stood out for me is how relevant the game feels. The whole idea of a cult taking over a rural town and pushing their beliefs on people. It's unsettling because it feels like something that could actually happen. Metal Gear Solid V: The Phantom Pain. It's one of those experiences that really makes you feel like you're in control of a tactical open-world espionage operation. From the moment you start as Big Boss, or Venom Snake, if you want to get technical, you know you're in for something special. The way the game blends stealth, action, and freedom of choice is just next level. Let's start with the open world. Unlike previous Metal Gear games, which were more linear, The Phantom Pain drops you into these massive living environments. You've got Afghanistan's rocky, mountainous terrain, and the jungles of Africa, each filled with enemy bases, patrols, and wild animals. The thing is, the world isn't just a backdrop. It reacts to how you play. You can approach missions any way you want, whether it's going in guns blazing or sneaking in without anyone ever knowing you were there. And the best part? If you get caught, the game doesn't punish you too harshly. You can adapt, think on your feet, and still pull off the mission. That freedom keeps the tension high and the experience fresh every time. The stealth mechanics, they're just so well done. You've got all these tools at your disposal. Decoys, tranquilizer guns, night vision goggles, and you can customize your loadout for every mission. One of my favorite things to do is use the cardboard box, classic Metal Gear, to sneak around or surprise enemies. It's so ridiculous, but somehow always works. And Mother Base is such a cool feature, you're constantly building it up. Mortal Kombat 1. You know how some fighting games make you feel like you're mashing buttons, hoping for the best? Not here. Mortal Kombat 1 manages to strike that perfect balance between approachable for newcomers and deep enough for the hardcore crowd. The accessibility options deserve a shout-out too. Fighting games can sometimes feel like an exclusive club, where only the most dedicated players thrive, but Mortal Kombat 1 welcomes everyone. Tutorials? Check. Training modes? Double check. And the inputs for moves are forgiving enough that even your friend who's never touched a controller before can still have fun, and maybe even land a killer fatality. The controls are responsive, the pacing is satisfying, and pulling off a special move feels ridiculously rewarding. And the fatalities? Without spoiling anything, of course. The creativity here is just off the charts. It's like the developers sat in a room and asked, how can we make players' jaws drop every single time? And then they delivered. It's gruesome, it's over the top, and somehow it's hilarious in that classic Mortal Kombat way. But what really keeps me coming back is the variety in gameplay. Sure, the main fights are the meat of the experience, but there's so much to explore beyond that. The game isn't just about smashing buttons in endless matches. It gives you reasons to keep playing, whether it's unlocking cool stuff or experimenting with different characters. Bottom line, jump in, throw some punches, and enjoy the chaos. Mortal Kombat 1 doesn't hold back. Rage 2. A game that promised chaotic open-world fun, but didn't exactly blow everyone away when it launched. It's one of those games that had all the ingredients for success, but for some reason, it didn't quite stick the landing. Still, if you actually dive into it, there's a lot to love. What was the controversy here? Well, part of the issue was the huge expectations. The first Rage was pretty well received for its time, but it had some flaws. So when Rage 2 was announced, people were hoping for this massive improvement. Bethesda hyped it up with colorful Mad Max-style marketing and promised a game that was over the top and action-packed. But when players got their hands on it, some felt like the open world was a bit empty and didn't deliver on all that excitement. A lot of people also criticized the story, or the lack of one. The game didn't take itself too seriously, which in some ways was fun. The main narrative didn't really pull you in. And some players felt like the game's focus on pure action left the story feeling a little thin. If you were expecting deep lore or compelling characters, it might not have been what you were hoping for. But here's where Rage 2 shines, the combat. If you're a fan of fast, frenetic, chaotic gameplay, this is where the game really delivers. The gunplay feels tight, satisfying, and absolutely brutal. You've got all these cool powers and weapons that you can mix and match, which makes every fight feel dynamic and fun. Ghost Recon Breakpoint. Ubisoft had a pretty solid reputation with the previous game, Ghost Recon Wildlands, so expectations were high for this one. But when Breakpoint dropped, it was met with a ton of criticism. People were upset with everything, from the bugs and glitches to the live service elements and microtransactions. Some felt the game had drifted too far from what made the Ghost Recon series great, tactical, squad-based military action. A lot of the backlash was around the game's focus on looter-shooter mechanics. Fans of the series weren't too happy about the addition of gear scores and loot systems, which felt more like something out of the Division rather than a tactical military shooter. That shift towards a more RPG-like system was jarring for longtime fans, and many felt it took away from the realism and immersion they loved about the franchise. Another big complaint was the lack of AI teammates at launch, which had been a staple in past Ghost Recon games. Instead, you were forced to play solo or with real players in co-op, and that left some players feeling like the experience was incomplete. But here's the thing. Ubisoft listened to the feedback. Over time, they patched the game, added new features, and really worked to improve the overall experience. AI teammates were eventually brought back, and many of the issues with bugs and balance were addressed. The game today is a much better, more polished version than it was at launch. Despite the rough start, Breakpoint offers a lot for fans of tactical shooters. Doom Eternal, a game that's just pure adrenaline. From the moment you start, it's like the game grabs you by the collar and throws you into this insane, demon-filled chaos. The pacing is so fast and relentless, it makes you feel like this unstoppable force. You're not just playing as the Doomslayer, you are the Doomslayer, and it's awesome. One thing I love about Doom Eternal is how it forces you to play aggressively. You can't just hide behind cover and pick off enemies from a distance like in other shooters. No way. You have to get in their faces, constantly moving, switching weapons, and using your chainsaw to keep your ammo up. It's this perfect mix of strategy and brutality. There's no time to breathe. And honestly, that's what makes it so much fun. Every fight feels like a frantic dance of destruction, and once you get the rhythm down, it's such a rush. The combat loop is where it really shines. You're always juggling resources, health, armor, ammo, and you get those by fighting. Need health? Glory kill a demon. Low on armor? Set enemies on fire with the flame belch. It's a constant back and forth, and it makes every encounter feel dynamic. You never just shoot your way through a room, you're managing the chaos, and that's what makes it so addicting. And the weapons, man, each one feels so satisfying. The shotgun, the plasma rifle, the BFG, it's all there, and it's all beefed up to feel more powerful than ever. Doom Eternal is an absolute must-play. It's intense, it's challenging, and it's just pure, unfiltered fun. Avowed. If you've ever wished to dive headfirst into a world where magic feels tangible, choices truly matter, and exploration is practically begging you to get lost in it, this game is exactly what you're looking for. Now, here's the thing about Avowed. It's set in the same universe as Obsidian's Pillars of Eternity series, but don't let that scare you if you've never touched those games before. You don't need prior knowledge to jump in and enjoy what Avowed has to offer. Think of it as a new doorway into this rich world, where you're given the freedom to shape your adventure the way you want. It's welcoming, accessible, and absolutely bursting with lore for those who want to dig deeper. One of the coolest parts of Avowed is how it handles magic and combat. This isn't just about flinging fireballs or swinging swords. You feel a genuine sense of connection to your arsenal. Whether you're crafting devastating spell combinations or making use of more traditional weaponry, the game makes every action feel purposeful. It's all about giving you tools to tackle challenges your way. You want to go in like a one-person army, prefer something sneakier or more methodical. That's on the table too. The game doesn't just hand you decisions, it throws you into situations that make you think. You're not just clicking dialogue options, you're shaping relationships, influencing factions, and, in many cases, questioning your own moral compass. It's like the game is daring you to leave your mark on its world. Exploration is another huge win here. Horizon Zero Dawn. You ever play a game that completely pulls you into its world and makes you forget time exists? From the very start, it hit me with its vast open world and beautiful landscapes. It's like stepping into a future where nature and machines are in this strange yet fascinating balance. The contrast of lush forests, snowy mountains, and decaying remnants of the old world just blew me away. I'd find myself stopping, not to complete a mission, but just to take in the view. What really pulled me in was Aloy, the main character. She's strong, independent, and driven, but still relatable. Her journey to uncover the truth about her past kept me hooked, and I felt a connection with her that not many games manage to achieve. Every interaction, every choice made me feel like I was walking her path, not just controlling her through a screen. The machines in Horizon are some of the most unique enemies I've ever encountered. They're massive, unpredictable, and have this alien feel to them, yet they belong perfectly in this world. Each machine required a different approach, forcing me to think and adapt. It never felt repetitive. Instead, it kept things fresh, especially when you take down something huge like a Thunderjaw. I remember the first time I did, and it felt like a massive victory. The combat made me feel like a hunter, not just a fighter, and that added a layer of depth I really appreciated. The story also has a lot going for it. There's mystery, there's emotion, and there's this haunting sense of loss throughout the game. Lords of the Fallen. Now here's a game that has an interesting story, but not in the way you'd expect, because I'm talking about the story of how the game itself has been received. Lords of the Fallen is one of those games that came out swinging with big ideas, tried some bold moves, and got, well, a lot of hate for it. And honestly, most of it feels a bit unfair. This game came out in the shadow of Dark Souls, and I mean, it's tough to go toe-to-toe with that. People immediately compared it to From Software's epic series, and fair enough, Lords of the Fallen definitely wears its inspiration on its sleeve. It's got that dark fantasy look, tough-as-nails combat, and a focus on dodging, blocking, and timing your attacks. But here's the thing. Just because it shares a genre doesn't mean it's trying to be a Dark Souls clone. And this is where I think a lot of players missed the point. Where Lords of the Fallen shines is in its own take on the action RPG formula. It doesn't try to be as brutally difficult as Dark Souls. Instead, it aims for more accessibility, which is honestly a great thing. It makes this style of game way more approachable for players who might be new to the genre or just don't have the time to get good through dozens of hours of trial and error. Lords of the Fallen balances challenge with a little more leniency, which is refreshing. The combat itself is actually really satisfying. It's chunky and there's this real weight to every swing of your weapon. It doesn't have the razor-sharp precision of Dark Souls. Atomic Heart, Trapped in Limbo DLC. If you thought the base game was a wild ride with its retro, futuristic chaos and unpredictable twists, then buckle up, because this DLC takes things into a whole new realm of experimentation and survival. Trapped in Limbo drops you into a fragmented, almost dreamlike scenario. It's not your typical open-world exploration anymore. Instead, you're thrown into a confined, eerie space where survival and adaptability become your top priorities. The game doesn't hold your hand, it just points you toward the chaos and says, good luck figuring this out. And honestly, that's part of the charm. The gameplay in this DLC is where it really shines. It leans heavily into puzzle solving and environmental exploration. Think of it as less run and gun, and more stop, think, and figure out how to not get shredded by whatever that is. Every room you enter feels like it has a purpose, whether it's testing your reflexes, challenging your problem-solving skills, or just messing with your head. And trust me, the game loves to mess with your head. One of the coolest things about Trapped in Limbo is how it plays with your expectations. Just when you think you've got a handle on things, the game throws in a curveball. Whether it's a new mechanic, an unexpected challenge, or just an unsettling moment that makes you stop and wonder, what is happening here? It keeps you on your toes in the best way possible. Combat, of course, makes a return, but it feels more strategic this time around. Forza Motorsport. This isn't a game that casually asks you to win. It challenges you to learn every curve, every braking point, and every opportunity to overtake with precision. At its core, Forza Motorsport is a celebration of cars, competition, and the sheer joy of pushing limits. This is where car enthusiasts and racing fans unite. exploring an intricate world where every vehicle feels like it has its own story to tell. It's not just a race to the finish line. It's about understanding your car, the track, and the craft. There's a kind of magic in how the game translates the language of motorsport into an experience that feels approachable yet endlessly deep. The driving physics are a standout feature here. Forza Motorsport strikes a perfect balance between realism and accessibility, creating a playground where beginners can learn and veterans can refine their skills. Each car handles differently, and you can feel the difference when you switch from a nimble hatchback to a roaring supercar. Car customization is where the game really lets you unleash your creativity. This isn't just about slapping on a new coat of paint or adding a flashy decal. It's a deeply satisfying process where you can tweak everything from the aerodynamics to the engine setup. Forza Motorsport doesn't treat cars like mere tools. They're your partners on the track, and you have full control over how they evolve. The variety of tracks is another area where this game shines. Wolfenstein, Youngblood. It's a bold step into a new chapter, where you step into the boots of Jess and Soph Blazkowicz, twin daughters of the legendary B.J. Blazkowicz, as they carve their own bloody path through a Nazi-controlled Paris in the 1980s. The heart of the game lies in its co-op mechanics. It's built for teamwork, and the dynamic between the two sisters translates seamlessly into gameplay. Whether you're playing with a friend or teaming up with an AI partner, every encounter feels like a high-energy tag team of destruction. Coordinating attacks, sharing resources, and revving each other up with pep signals makes every fight feel alive and engaging. The gunplay is classic Wolfenstein, fast, punchy, and packed with variety. From the satisfying kick of a shotgun to the futuristic zap of a laser gun, there's a weapon for every playstyle. Upgrading your arsenal adds a layer of customization that lets you tailor your tools of destruction to your liking. It's not just about shooting, it's about shooting with style, precision, and that signature over-the-top flair. The structure of the game feels different in the best way possible. It's more open-ended, encouraging exploration, and giving you the freedom to tackle objectives in your own order. Paris isn't just a backdrop. It's a sprawling playground filled with hidden paths, enemy outposts, and countless opportunities to experiment with your approach. It's all about finding your rhythm, whether you're charging in guns blazing or sneaking around. Halo Infinite. This game pulls you right into the heart of what makes Halo such a beloved franchise, while also taking bold steps to evolve the series in new and exciting ways. It's all about blending classic Halo action with modern gameplay elements, and it does so in a way that feels fresh, yet familiar. The gameplay is where this title shines brightest. The combat is fluid, responsive, and endlessly satisfying. Whether you're dual-wielding an arsenal of futuristic weapons or taking down enemies with precision strikes, the gunplay is top tier. The grapple shot, a new addition to the series, changes the way you approach every encounter. It's not just a tool, it's a game changer. You can zip across the battlefield, snag weapons from afar, or use it to close the gap for a devastating melee attack. It's one of those mechanics that feels natural right away, but opens up a ton of creative options as you get more comfortable with it. The open world design is a major shift for the series, and it's handled with care. Instead of guiding you down a set path, Halo Infinite gives you the freedom to explore. You'll find enemy outposts, hidden collectibles, and opportunities for some epic vehicle combat scattered across the map. The world feels alive, and every encounter is a chance to experiment with different tactics. Driving a Warthog with a squad of Marines, or taking the skies in a Banshee, feels just as thrilling as ever. One of the standout features is how dynamic the battles feel. Enemies adapt to your strategies. Vehicles explode in glorious fashion. Detroit Become Human. It's one of those games where you're not just watching a story play out, you're actually shaping it. Your choices matter, and I mean really matter. The choices aren't always easy either. Sometimes you're like, what's the right choice here? And there's no clear answer. It's all about what you value, and that affects the relationships you build and the path you take. There's this branching storyline, so the game reacts to your choices in a way that feels organic. Each playthrough can be so different, and it's wild seeing how even small decisions can snowball into something huge later on. You play as 3 different androids, each with their own story, and the game does an amazing job of making you care about each one. You feel invested in their struggles, their choices, and what they want for their lives. The best part for me was the emotional weight. The game digs into some pretty deep themes: freedom, empathy, what it means to be human. And because it's so interactive, it really makes you think about what you do in these situations. By the end, you're not just playing a game, you're reflecting on your own beliefs and choices, which is pretty rare for a video game. And Detroit doesn't shy away from tension either. There are moments where you're genuinely on the edge of your seat, trying to make quick decisions that could totally change everything. And the stakes are high because, things can go wrong in big ways if you make a wrong call. So, yeah, Detroit Become Human is perfect if you're into games that let you dig into a story deeply, and that give you control over what happens. Resident Evil 5. Now, Resident Evil 5 does things a little differently than some of the other games in the series. It's not about creeping down dark hallways or fighting off sudden jump scares every 2 seconds. This one leans way more into action, and let me tell you, it does that action really well. One of the things that makes Resident Evil 5 stand out is its co-op gameplay. If you've got a friend to play with, this game is seriously a blast. You and your partner are constantly working together, covering each other's backs, sharing resources, strategizing against big enemies. And trust me, it makes the entire experience so much better. Whether you're playing as Chris Redfield or Shiva Alomar, you're both crucial to the fight. And that dynamic is what makes this game feel so fresh in the Resident Evil lineup. I remember the first time I played with a friend. We were yelling at each other, trying to stay alive, and it was chaos in the best possible way. Now combat here is amped up, and Resident Evil 5 fully commits to that action-packed style. You're fighting waves of infected, managing your ammo, using different weapons, and some of the encounters feel big and intense. I'm talking heart-pounding moments where you're surrounded, low on ammo, and desperately strategizing to make it out alive. The game's got this great mix of survival horror and all-out action that makes every fight feel like a scene straight out of a movie. But even if you're going solo, the AI partner, Shiva, if you're Chris, actually does a pretty solid job. Days Gone. I'll admit, when I first heard about it, I wasn't expecting too much, but once I started playing, I got hooked. It's one of those open-world games where you get so lost in the world that hours just fly by. And let's be real, who doesn't love a good post-apocalyptic story with zombies? Or I guess freakers in this case. The thing that stands out to me the most is the world itself. Oregon, but post-apocalyptic. It's both beautiful and terrifying at the same time. You're riding your bike through these gorgeous landscapes, like snow-capped mountains and dense forests, but you know danger is lurking around every corner. It's such a cool mix of peaceful and intense. I remember just cruising down the highway at sunset, only to get ambushed by a freaker horde or a pack of wolves out of nowhere. Speaking of the bike, Days Gone really makes it feel like your best friend. I know it sounds weird, but you're constantly upgrading it, maintaining it, and using it to get out of some really tight spots. Running out of gas in the middle of nowhere, with freakers closing in, is one of those moments where you're like, okay, this is serious. But when you've got your bike tuned up and ready to go, it's an absolute blast to just ride through the wilderness, wind in your hair, dodging obstacles and escaping enemies. And then there's Deacon. I didn't expect to get so attached to his story, but as the game went on, I really started to feel for the guy. The freaker hordes, though, insane. The first time you run into one, it's pure panic. I'm talking hundreds of freakers coming at you all at once, and you have to figure out how to take them down. Just Cause 4. It's one of those games that you can't help but have fun with. The chaos, the explosions, the sheer scale of everything. It's like they designed it with the word epic in mind. You step into the boots of Rico Rodriguez once again, and right from the start, you're thrown into a massive open world with more possibilities than you can count. One of the first things you notice is how alive the world feels. Tornadoes, thunderstorms, blizzards, they're not just pretty to look at, they actually change the way you play. I remember the first time I got caught in a tornado. I had no idea what to do, but then I realized it doesn't matter. Just roll with it, because that's the spirit of Just Cause. The weather system isn't just a gimmick. It's part of the chaos that makes the game so unique. Then there's the grappling hook. It's not just a tool anymore, it's a way of life. You can customize it in so many ways, from making things float in midair, to pulling objects together, to create chain reactions. It's insane. It's like the game is begging you to experiment, to find new ways to destroy everything in sight. The story in Just Cause 4 isn't the deepest thing in the world, but let's be honest, that's not why you're here. You're here to blow things up in the most creative ways possible, and the game gives you everything you need to do just that. You've got jets, tanks, helicopters, boats, and more. If it moves, you can hijack it. And if it doesn't move, well, you can probably make it explode. Alan Wake 2. If you played the first game, you probably already know how trippy things can get. But this sequel, it cranks up that eerie, psychological horror vibe to a whole new level. It's like being stuck in a thriller novel that keeps messing with your head. And I mean that in the best possible way. So, right off the bat, the atmosphere in this game is incredible. Every location feels drenched in mystery and dread. Whether you're walking through dark forests, creepy small towns, or abandoned buildings, there's this constant tension in the air, like something's always lurking just out of sight. It's not just about jump scares, though. It's that slow, creeping sense of unease that really gets under your skin. The game does such a good job of making you feel like you're never truly safe. The story? Man, it's deep. It's a blend of supernatural horror, psychological thriller, and just straight-up weirdness. You're dealing with Alan's mind unraveling, and reality itself starts to bend and twist around you. There are moments where you're not sure what's real, what's in his head, or what's being written into existence. It's this constant mind game that keeps you hooked. And what I love is how the game doesn't spoon-feed you answers. You're piecing together this puzzle, and it feels so satisfying when things click, or get even weirder. Combat is another high point. The whole flashlight and gun mechanic from the first game is back, but it's more refined this time around. You're constantly managing light and darkness. Sekiro. I went in this game expecting something similar to Dark Souls, but nope. Sekiro has its own thing going on. It's all about timing, parrying, and mastering patience. You can't just hack your way through this one, but when you finally land that perfect parry, or take down a boss that's been wrecking you, it's the most satisfying feeling ever. The combat is so tight and precise. I love how it's focused more on skill than stats. Every fight feels like a proper duel, especially with that posture system. Instead of just slashing away, you're breaking down their defense to land that killer blow. It's a challenge, but man, when you get the rhythm down, it's amazing. And that grappling hook, dude, it's such a game changer. You feel like a legit ninja, zipping around trees, rooftops, and sneaking up on enemies from above. I can't count how many times it saved me from getting killed. It just makes exploring the world way more fun. Speaking of the world, the whole setting in feudal Japan is stunning. The environments are so detailed, from peaceful bamboo forests to war-torn castles. Every area has this mysterious beauty to it, and as you explore, you start piecing together the lore, which is so From Software in the best way. Now, I won't lie, Sekiro is hard. It can be brutal, but in a good way. I've died more times than I care to admit, but each death feels like a lesson. You can't just rush in. You've got to learn your enemies' moves, find their patterns, and perfect your timing. And when you do, it's like reaching some kind of gamer zen. Little Nightmares 2. From the moment you step into its eerie, twisted world, you know you're in for a wild ride. If you enjoyed the first game, this one takes everything that made Little Nightmares so great and cranks it up a notch. The atmosphere is even more disturbing. The puzzles are more challenging. And the story, while still cryptic, pulls you deeper into this unsettling nightmare realm. You play as Mono, a new character, but you're not alone. 6. The protagonist from the first game is there with you, and having that companion dynamic adds a new layer to the gameplay. It's cool how the game makes you rely on each other to get through the twisted environments. You'll need to work together to solve puzzles, escape enemies, and navigate the nightmarish world around you. It's not a co-op game, but that teamwork element feels fresh, and gives you a stronger emotional connection to the characters. The world in Little Nightmares 2 is just as unsettling as you'd expect. It's full of grotesque, distorted creatures that'll send shivers down your spine. The design of the enemies is one of the game's strongest points. Each one is creepier than the last, and the way they move and interact with the environment keeps you on edge the whole time. There's a constant feeling of being hunted, which makes every encounter feel tense and nerve-wracking. What's really great about the game is how it balances those intense chase scenes with quieter, more atmospheric moments. You'll go from heart-pounding sequences where you're being chased by terrifying enemies. Hogwarts Legacy. Honestly, this game is like a dream come true for anyone who's ever wanted to live out their Hogwarts fantasy. If you've grown up loving the world of Harry Potter, or just love the idea of being a wizard, this game really nails that feeling of stepping into the magical world. I mean, The second you get sorted into your house, it's like, yep, this is it. I'm at Hogwarts now. The school itself is gorgeous. They've done such an incredible job of capturing the magic and mystery of Hogwarts. You can literally spend hours just wandering around, getting lost in the hallways, finding hidden passages, and taking in all the little details. It's exactly how I imagined the castle would feel, like every corner has a secret or a bit of history waiting to be discovered. What's cool too is how the game lets you really craft your own story. You're not just following the Harry Potter timeline, you're in a completely new time period, which is honestly refreshing. You get to create your own character, make your own choices, and carve out your own adventure. And it's not just about being a goody-two-shoes student either. You can dive into some darker magic if you want, which is something I didn't expect but absolutely love. The combat is surprisingly deep too. At first, I thought it might be kind of simple, but there's actually a lot of strategy. You can mix and match different spells, use potions, and even summon creatures to help you out. And the way the spells are animated, like the wand flicks and the flashes of magic, it's so satisfying. You really feel like a proper witch or wizard,